Hello and welcome into my latest live broadcast. It's the 7th of August, 2025. My name is CareyHolzman, and today we're looking at another NAS. I am really super excited to see how many of the other mini PC manufacturers, for example, are getting into the network attached storage space. So initially, when we first started talking about NAS, or my first introduction to it, was back in the day using the Seagate Black Armor series. And they were a wonderful solution back when, a terabyte hard drive was the biggest you could get. And this was a way that you could add a lot of storage that wasn't anywhere near as expensive or maintenance needy as a typical Windows server. So for a lot of my clients, introducing them to NAS, this was a brand new thing, network attached storage. So it's since evolved a lot since then, and what used to be an all text-based interface and certain limitations with regard to network speed and security have just grown and grown and grown as technology does. And the leaders in the space in this whole time have been like Synology. You probably heard that name. Maybe you've never bought one of their products. Maybe you feel like that's above any of your needs, but not anymore. I mean, generally speaking, everybody, with few exceptions, would benefit from having a network attached storage device. They're more affordable than ever. And well, there's not a perfect one out there. You can say, well, I've heard, Synology has these problems, or QNAP has those problems, or yes, none of them are perfect, but they keep getting better. And at the end of the day, my goal is to provide you as much information as possible, both on the positive and the negatives, and then you individually decide price, value. That's not my place, right? I don't know what your needs are and what you're expecting or how you're going to use these NAS devices, but just to explain what they are and what they do and what your choices are. And then from there, that enables you to make your own decision. So the fact is that this space has been dominated by a few players that are finally starting to see some real competition that holds a lot of promise, and that includes Minisform, as well as Ugreen, and today another new entry joining the competition is ORICO. We've had some very good experience with ORICO products. For example, their external NVMe enclosure worked much more reliably and easier to get in and out of than the Zyke drive, and it costs less. The ORICO NVMe drive we've been looking at, we've got one right in the streaming computer that we're using to broadcast today. I still don't have the screen hooked up, but the cable we need is in the bag here. But this is the little machine that I'm broadcasting to you from. And that has one drive in it, and that's that ORICO industrial drive. It's fast. It's much more competitively priced than the big name makers, the same warranty, and in many cases, it's faster for less money. So how will it hold up over time? Well, this is what we do here. Rather than just review it in 2 hours and never see it again, we're going to rely on it every day in order to bring you our live broadcasts. And if it fails, well, you'll be the first to know. In the meantime, if we don't talk about it, it's probably because there's nothing to talk about. And we hope that in time we can prove that it is a solid value and worth consideration, even if it's a brand you're not familiar with. Many years ago, when we were buying VCRs, one of the cheapest brands you could buy was Gold Star. They were seen as sort of a discount brand, generic, sort of like Emerson. And today, you would know Gold Star as LG, Lucky Gold Star. LG products are seen much more respectably than they were back in the 80s. And of course, there's a price that comes with that. There's a tax for that name brand recognition. And when you get companies early on and you evaluate them and you're like, hey, these are as good as or better than the name brands, similar warranties, maybe even more features for less money, wouldn't you want to know about it? I mean, just because it's not a name brand doesn't mean it's not any good. It also doesn't mean it's going to be good either, but I'm just saying it deserves a chance, a fair shake, because I want to spend my money wisely. I don't have enough of it to just waste and throw around and gamble. I'm not a gambler. I'm not good at it. My joke is I should just drive by the casino, empty my wallet into the parking lot and leave, and at least that way I've saved about 3 or 4 hours. So, you know, or just go in there, take everything I've got, put it on the roulette wheel, red or black, even or odd, 1 to 18 or 19 to 36, let the wheel roll. Let's win or lose and get out of there. I will always lose. You don't want to take me with you gambling. Just tell you that. Stick to my lane, what I'm good at. And what I'm trying to do here is evaluate, would some products be a gamble, right? So I'm going to do the gambling for you. We're going to evaluate the product. I'm going to tell you what I like, what I don't like, but I'm not going to tell you what you should like or not like. I'm not going to tell you if you should buy it or not. I'm going to tell you if I would buy it, but I want you to make your own decision. And the best decision you can make comes from having all of the information possible so that you can determine if that will meet your expectations with regards to value, compatibility, or what it's able to do, the device, whatever the device is. You know, we talk about things like monitors, keyboards, mice, speakers, headphones. That's all subjective. What somebody likes, somebody else hates. You like earbuds, you like over the ear, you know, you don't want Bluetooth. It's so subjective. It's like telling me what the best candy bar is. Well, Kit Kat is better than Hershey, but it's not a dairy milk bar from Cadbury. On the other hand, you know, a Snickers bar, no. This is all subjective. You're allowed to have your favorites and allow other people to have theirs. And if there's something that makes some people sick, like sugar-free Haribo gummy bears, where you eat too many and you get gastrointestinal distress universally, just read the YouTube reviews because they're hilarious. That would be a warning. I'm not telling you not to eat them, but if you eat too many of these, universally, you're going to be sitting on the toilet in misery. Haribo, sugar-free gummy bears, an alternative to laxatives. All right, so with that picture in your mind, great segue, Carey. We're going to take a look today at the ORICO, the brand new HS500Pro, which is their entry into NAS. Now, they have built some other direct attached storage devices in the past. I'm not a fan of DAS, or direct attached storage. And the difference between direct attached storage and network attached storage is how it attaches the storage. I know sometimes this stuff seems confusing, but if you really think about the words we're saying, they're pretty obvious. So direct attached storage means the storage directly attaches to the computer. For example, this flash drive has to be attached to the computer to provide us the storage that's on the flash drive. This is direct attached storage. If I want the computer over there to access this, then I either have to share it over the network, which may be more complex than most people understand, or I have to unplug this flash drive from one computer and sneaker net it over to the other computer, plug it in, so it's directly connected. But network attached storage is this with a network cable on the end, so it plugs into our router or our network, and everything on the network can equally access it. So obviously, the capacity of this isn't going to cut it. We need to be able to attach drives. And if you're dealing with a business, or you're dealing with somebody who deals with large files, like a content creator or photographer, real estate agents that have pictures and pictures and pictures of properties for sale, they consume a lot of space. And if they work with more than one other person, they need to be able to access those files equally. And the cheapest way to do that is obviously just turning on networking in Windows, but that comes with its own sort of limitations and confusions. The best thing you can do is have something attached to the network that's always on. When you're sharing files on a computer, the computer must be turned on. And when we talk about like a shared printer, if you plug a printer into your computer and you want another computer in your house or in your office to be able to print to it, then you have to set up the network sharing, which is a bit intimidating for a lot of people. And you have to make sure the printer is on, has paper and ink, and your computer is on. Anytime the person at the other computer wants to print to it, that must already be in place. So that means you just would leave everything on 24/7. if you're able to connect the printer to your network, then you just leave the printer on, never turn it off, and anybody at any time, anywhere in the building can print to that printer, and they just have to walk over to the printer to get their printouts. Same with scanners and other network. That's the whole benefit of a network, is to be able to work from numerous machines onto the same equipment. So, well, ORICO has had some direct attached storage. I'm not aware of any previous network attached storage, and this is their first entry into this. And bear in mind, it's a brand new product. In fact, I don't even think this is out yet. And we've pre-ordered on Kickstarter their top of the line model. And in fact, they just collected the money today. They've just finished their Kickstarter goal. And I think it's supposed to ship next month. And I really wasn't expecting this from ORICO, because they don't know that we did that. These are like two different divisions. And if we take a look at what ORICO's offering here, it's pretty exciting that they're offering, they're just coming out of the gate with like 6 different models to meet all different kinds of needs. So let me see if I pull up today's video notes and pull down the, let's see, where am I? Hold on a second. The video notes are right here. And if we look at their official page for this product, you will see, hold on a second, I will share the screen with you. There it is. This product here, the ORICO Pro 5-bay NAS. So this has 2 NVMe, 5 3.5-inch drive slots. It says a massive 110 terabytes of storage, but now you can get much bigger than that, because the drives are now up to 30 terabytes each from Seagate. So 5 of those would be 150 terabytes. So this number is subject to change as drive technology keeps improving, because they don't make the drives. But at the time they wrote this, that was your maximum storage. That's how fast it's changing. It's got 2 2.5 gig network ports. It's powered with an Intel Celeron 4000 series. You can access this online over the internet if you choose to, so it doesn't have to just be within the office. You don't have to pay for Dropbox or Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive ever again. There's no subscription, so when you hook this up, you can configure it securely to be cloud storage that you can share with your friends or your employees so they can work from home, etc. Now, even though I don't deploy NASs in this way, that's just not right for my use case scenario, I want to let you know that you can. And if you look here, you see the 5 drive trays. You can see the RAM module is easily accessible, and the 2 NVMe slots for caching are down underneath this little removable cover. So very easy to get to. And it just tells you about how much you could store in general, like, 23 million photos, whatever. When we look at, let's see if I just search for ORICO Kickstarter NAS, we can see the whole family of products here. Somewhere in here. I'm looking for the catalog. So these are all different models. We're just scrolling through, and you guys can visit this page on your own if you want to learn more about each model. But they have a page here that I should have set up prior to going live here. That's just a summary of all the different models. And they're everything from, yeah, here's what I want. Where's the rest of it? There's 3 of this. There's 3 lower end models over to the left. And I don't know why it's not giving me the whole page. But these even can have GPUs attached to them. So like this little one here, how many bays is this? So there's the 6 models. We actually ordered the CF56. I felt the CF1000 was much more overkill than we would ever use. And I felt like the value was on the CF56 Pro. So I believe that's what we ordered, is the CF56 Pro. Actually, for the price we paid, we might have actually ordered just the CF56. I can't remember what I ordered now, but one of these top three. Well, it's definitely not the high-end one. And the high-end one, like I said, that's going to hold like 10 drives or something ridiculous. So they have a lot to pick from, is all I'm trying to say. They're just, when they introduce this product, they're introducing, to the best of my knowledge, all 6 products at the same time. And I didn't expect to see anything available yet, so I was really surprised when they said, "Hey, would you like to, evaluate the HS500 Pro?" And I thought, "Wow, okay, great." And I think the HS500 Pro, maybe it's not in this family here. Maybe it's even more. Maybe that's why it throws me, because they have HD10, HD8. So this is maybe in a different family of product, but it's still network attached storage. And let's open it up and take a look at it today. If I go back to, let's see. Yes.
Are you trying to show the case with all because all it was showing?
You know, it looks like what it did is it opened another instance of Chrome.
Oh.
And I don't know why it did that. So this whole time I'm scrolling through it and responding to what I'm seeing. And just as you come down to mention it, I just noticed that. So this is the Kickstarter page. And this is what I've been referring to. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. So essentially, this is their Kickstarter. The Kickstarter's over with now. It ended today. And you can learn a lot more about the products. And what I've been talking about this whole time is I've been looking at this and scrolling, and I wasn't aware that you guys weren't seeing this page being captured. But yeah, so these are the brand new products, and we, as I mentioned, we pre-ordered. I think we pre-ordered the $800 one using our membership contributions from you guys. We're just reinvesting back in the channel, and I don't expect this to be a perfect NAS. It's brand new. It's an unpolished product, and they haven't had the years of experience that other companies like Synology and QNAP and ASUS have had to keep polishing their product, TerraMaster, for example. But you got to start somewhere, and it looks like, from everything I'm seeing, where we're at with this is really, really good for something that's a first-time product, and that they've got a whole series of these out that they're releasing all at the same time. So there's the CF500, 500 Pro, and the CF6. So that's the big daddy there. The CF6? No, CF6 is just all flash memory. There's no hard drives in that. Which one am I thinking of? This one, CF1000 Pro. That's the big daddy right there. That's an i5 and 10 bay hard drives with 2 NVMe, and supports RAID 0, 1, 5, 6, 10, 50, 60. So these involve mirroring and RAIDing 5 at the same time. What else? 10 gig Ethernet on those. Then they've got GPU docks. So I don't know why anybody would want that, but that's a thing, I guess. And some more models here. So all of these are all in the same family that's coming out. Here's everything in the box. And these are the prices that they were running on Kickstarter. I think we ordered the CF56. I want to say it was the Pro, but maybe not. It might have been. I don't think I wanted to drop $1,300 on it, and I certainly didn't. After sales tax, this is around $1,700 in the U.S., and that's way overkill for our needs. That CF1000. You know, if they want to send me one for review, I'll gladly take it. But you know, they're all going to run the same ORICO operating system, and that's really what I'm most interested in. So there we go. A little bit about ORICO. We've worked with them before, and you can pull their Kickstarter page up. Just Google ORICO NAS Kickstarter. It should take you right there. That's what I did when it opened a new Chrome window, and that's why I was capturing the wrong window. So I apologize for that. Now let me come back over here And if we go back to our video notes, we also have a link to Amazon. So this is $400 what we're looking at today, and you can buy it today. But should you? Here's what I want you to be ready for. Some people always like having the latest and greatest. They love to get the latest tech day one, maybe even earlier, right? There's people that want to play with the Windows betas before they come out. Some people love that stuff. Other people can't stand it because it's not quite done yet. And I feel like, from what I understand about this ORICO, it's not quite done yet. But maybe I'm wrong. We're going to find out today. But if we look at the Amazon page, let's see. Turn that on. There we go. This is the Amazon page for what we're looking at today, the HS500Pro. This one says up to 136 terabytes. The other one said 110. Look how quickly the numbers are changing. They're using something called CyberdataOS, OS, which appears to be ORICO's own operating system. And 5 hard drive slots, 2 NVMe slots, and 2.5 gig Ethernet. So this one does not have 10 gig. Okay, so a little bit about the unit here. But if we look at the reviews, there's only one review on this because it's brand new. Not many people have bought it. However, it's still a first generation product. Like, there's a reason why there's only one review here. This is likely going to be a big learning curve for me as a reviewer because I'm not familiar with their operating system and how they move things around. And it's likely going to be getting a lot of updates over the next 12 months that are going to make the operating system much more feature rich and powerful. That's what I'm expecting. So if you want to wait till, a year from now and let the product develop and mature, or you want to be an early bird and jump in quick and just get the updates as they become available and be first, I can't tell you which way is the right way, but I will tell you with any brand new product, I don't care if it's a brand new car, if it's a first generation product, it's going to need some polishing. And it's really about having the right expectation if you're going to be a happy customer. So I'm not here to tell you you should buy it or you shouldn't buy it, but if you buy any first generation product, that's because you want to be first. You're going to pay whatever the retail price is. Usually they get cheaper as they get better because manufacturing scales up, if the unit's selling well. And then the better the software gets, the more units they sell and the cheaper, it's a big cycle. If the thing turns out to be a big financial disaster, then you end up with a piece of computing history. So there's the flip side. But ORICO's a really big company, and I don't think they're going to give up anytime soon. In fact, they only just started. And from what I'm seeing online about this, the build quality on this is outstanding. So I want to see if what I've heard online matches reality. And before we get to the unboxing, I want to say hello to everybody that's joining us here in our chat room. So shout out to our friend Buster, of course. Thank you, Buster, for the Amazon gift card sent earlier. We appreciate you. I hope you're doing well. Brad Rebel says hello, along with P. Master and Mortant. I see Mark Baggett and David Graham joining us, along with Scott, Eddie Casanova, and Jose Lopez. Rick Lake says hello. Shout out to our friend Rick out there in Minnesota. Eddie Casanova says hello, along with Viper 30. There's Mark Gaines saying hello. Excuse me, hello from Northern Ireland. Jim Kenny joins us, along with Bill Sony. And, of course, Mara, our channel administrator, hanging out in there with you guys. Doman 2000 says hello. And Buster says, here in Bonnie, Scotland, the temperature in Edinburgh, 57 degrees Fahrenheit or 13.8 degrees Celsius. Projected temperature for Phoenix, Arizona today, the 7th of August, 2025, is 118 degrees Fahrenheit. So there's an extreme heat warning and advisory in effect for people to not go outside unless they have to, and bring a lot of water. Keep yourself hydrated. You know me, I like to stay inside no matter what anyway. I'm a computer nerd. But I most definitely hate the month of August in Phoenix because this is standard operating procedure. If you ever want to come to Phoenix, avoid July and August. August is worse. If you think July's bad, it gets worse. And then sometime around October, November, we'll finally get back to, you know, human conditions. In the meantime, that keeps me as a night owl. I like to go out after all the people getting home from work, sitting in rush hour traffic in the heat of the day, spending an hour in traffic to drive, you know, 20 miles. I wait for all of them to get home, get off the roads. I wait for the sun to set. And then that is when I go out. That's when I do my shopping, and that's when I run my errands, except when I have to do shipping. All of the shippers all close usually around 6 or 7 o'clock. In fact, our local post office closes at 4 p.m. That kills me. You have no idea. That kills me. But aside from that, I try and do everything as much as possible at night because, well, first of all, I'm just naturally a night person, but also it really works well for me in the desert to get out of the heat, to get out of the traffic. And then it's only like, you know, 98 degrees outside at night. I'll tell you what, just getting away from the sun makes a big difference because we rarely have any clouds in the sky. It's just the sun boring down on you relentlessly. And it's, you know, find a little shade can make a huge difference from just having a bare sun bear down on you relentlessly, often without any wind. It's like being in an oven. It is miserable. Ask me how I really feel. John Lewis says hello from Brazil. Dazzle555 and Steve Chappelle say hello. Eugene Ildago joining us along with Frank Jimmy Greenia out there in Vermont. Andy W6AD says hello. Gilberto Colazzo saying hello. And Shamim Kejviris from Sweden saying hello. Dennis K joining us, and I also see who else? Moonwolf Hunter says hello. Mike Gamer says hello. Picard 2005 joining us. Michael saying hello from Wales in the UK. I love it back when you're in your kitchen. Made it homely as someone would be doing it for themselves at home. So I've been watching you for a while. Right on. Well, thanks for continuing to watch. We appreciate having you here and joining us during a live stream and being a part of our live community. There's always room for more. So if you're watching now and you're not jumping in the chat to at least say hello, you're missing out on half of the value of this content. Ron Barnish says hello, along with Aaron Werner and Joseph Hawkins. Joseph, I think, is in New Zealand. So we have a worldwide audience, and we love it. It's great. It's amazing. This would have cost me like $20 a minute back in 1985 as a phone call. Never mind any video. The video would have been the size of a postage stamp. You get 2 frames a second. All right, what else do we have? Oh, Gary Tatum says hello. And Stephen Schur says hello from Germany. Right on. Is it Stephen or Stefan? Probably Stefan. All right. Marsman50 jumping in there. Again, any like-minded individuals, meaning you're just kind. I don't care how old you are, how smart you are, or how smart you think you are. I'm curious how kind you are. Your age, your religion, your gender, your ethnicity. There's jerks across the board. As long as you're not a jerk, come on in and say hello. We'd love to have you. If you're a jerk, never mind. All right, are we ready to do some unboxing? Is it about that time? Like half an hour of saying hello and introductions and prefacing? Here we go. Let me grab my knife. Now, there's no prep work on this. Everything is shot live. It's unscripted. It's unrehearsed. Everything you see is real. I have no bias one way or the other. It is what it is. If parts are sent that are broken, I got to tell you, it very rarely happens anymore. Manufacturing has gotten so good now. Not only are products rarely ever dead on arrival or damaged, they rarely even fail anymore. Not like it used to be back in 20 years ago, where we were replacing hard drives and power supplies constantly. Made a lot of money from that. Kept me very busy. These days, it's pretty rare for a hard drive, well, at least a solid state drive, to fail. I don't see power supplies failing anywhere near the amount they used to, and I don't get as much product damaged or dead on arrival, which was pretty rare before, but now it almost never happens. So when I tell you I'm live and unscripted, unrehearsed, and we're going to do a live unboxing, I have all the confidence in the world that statistically everything's going to be fine. The odds of anything not being right are possible, but it's also possible for me to win the lottery. Yeah, don't hold your breath. All right, here we go. I am super excited to see what ORICO has to offer, because I think the network attached storage space, the genre of it, has a lot of room for growth. This is a great time for companies to get in and set a foothold and start innovating their products and polishing their products. Because right now, Synology has had a chokehold on this industry for a long time, and for a good reason. It's a good product, but Synology is not doing anything other manufacturers can't do, right? When Sears went out of business, or Kmart went out of business here in the United States, they blamed Amazon. But why didn't they just do what Amazon's doing? They refused to, and so they died. Welcome to business. You will pivot and be flexible as your market changes, or you're going to be stubborn, refuse to do what your competitors that are beating you are doing, and then you will run out of money and you will shut your business down. Not personal, it's just the way business works here in the United States anyway. It's no surprise. You can see it coming a mile away from the attitude of the people making the decisions. The investors don't want to put their money into it, so the investors end up losing money, the business shuts down, et cetera, et cetera. So when it comes to network attached storage, there's really no good reason why there isn't a competitor that's right up there with Synology in build quality and operating system apps and performance and reliability, other than nobody's done it yet. And it's not easy. I'm not going to suggest it's easy. I think QNAP is probably pretty darn close. I just don't like some of the ways they execute some things in their operating system, and they are quite expensive. But Synology is not cheap either. So when we start looking at other manufacturers like TerraMaster, they're a lot less expensive, but the build quality isn't quite the same, the support isn't quite the same, and the OS, well, better than ever, doesn't really hold a candle to their competition yet. But this takes time. It's like you want to grow a tree, it's going to take years. You better get to planting today. You're not going to make that tree grow any faster. You've got to plant the seed. And the sooner you plant that seed, the sooner you're going to have a tree. And so with that in mind, as we look at the ORICO, we look at Miniswarm, we look at Ugreen, we have to remember these are first generation products, and to set your expectations accordingly. I'm more than happy to be blown out of the water with amazement, but I'm not expecting to. But we'll see where we're at, or where ORICO is at in their design. And I'm even surprised this is available for sale right now. So apparently it's come along further than last time I checked in. That's a good sign. That means they're rapidly working on this. We want to see that for sure. Okay, back to unboxing. Here we go. Almost every one of these NASs unboxes the same. You typically have a box of accessories, drive rails perhaps, power supply, power cable, Ethernet cable. This box is awfully heavy. Let's see if I can switch to camera 2. So in this box we have some documentation an Ethernet cable, a flat one. A standard PC power cable, I like that. It's not a laptop style, but regular PC style. Another Ethernet cable, because it does give you 2 Ethernet ports. And this is where all the weight is, right here, this giant power brick. Set that here. And then down below in the box, we've got a couple bags of screws for mounting 2.5-inch drives, and even if you wanted to secure in 3.5-inch drives, which is probably not necessary. And then a little tiny blister maker screwdriver. These are better than nothing, but not by much. That's a nice thought that they've included it, but a regular human-sized screwdriver is going to make this a lot easier on your hands. This maybe will be good for NVMe, you know, some little tiny single shallow screw, but I wouldn't want to have to tighten 4 screws on 5 drives. That's 20 screws with this little tiny guy. On the other hand, we should not require the screws on regular 3-inch mechanical drives. If it's like other NASs, they'll snap into their bays toollessly. So let's hope they do. And let's get back over to camera 1. And in the rest of the box is just the NAS itself. So let's get that out of here. Sometimes the easiest way to empty these boxes, and especially if it's a big box, is open the box and turn it upside down and gently lift the box up, rather than trying to get your hands in there and pull on the box and tear the box, especially if you're someone like me that likes to save the boxes for a while, or you purchase from Amazon and you want to be able to potentially return it. You're going to need to keep the box intact. It's going to make your life a lot easier. So, all right, let's just get the styrofoam and packaging off of here and see what this looks like and how it compares to the photos on their website and Amazon. First of all, it's smaller than it looks to me. It looks much bigger in the photos. Smaller is better, right? Less desk space. All right, we'll just put all that back in the box. And let's move this aside and go back over to camera 2. Here's the back of the unit. We've got 2 fans. There's our 2 Ethernet ports. We've got a couple USBs. We've got a very Synology-like power adapter. It's not a standard barrel connector. I like the fact that this is not a standard barrel connector, because they're so universal you can easily accidentally plug the wrong adapter in and end up, you know, you let the smoke out. You know, these run on smoke, and when you let the smoke out, it doesn't work anymore. So this sort of a proprietary connector prevents you from plugging the wrong adapter into it. So I think that's a good thing. We got what appears to be a USB Type-C, a reset hole, HDMI output. That appears to be it. We turn it around. That's all metal. Plastic bezels. It's more like a computer case. Look how thick that metal is. Holy cow. They're not screwing around. Now, if you were to look at a TerraMaster, you could bend it in and out like a soda can. I don't know if that really matters, but I do feel like, you know, I'm a bit old school. The heavier something is, the better quality it is. That's not necessarily true, though. But, you know, I feel like this is a bit over-engineered, and I'm okay with that. We've got the lid that when you pop it off here, it's just looks like it's on there with these magnets, and it's got some instruction and a QR code there for what I'm guessing is initial setup and how to get the app and little warnings, etc. That I typically just ignore that. There's your 5 drive bays, which it looks like you got a little indent. I guess you push in on this. Maybe. Push? No? Am I doing something wrong? Are they locked? Normally you just push on these and they open. Like I said, I don't do any prep work on these or any rehearsal. I want there to be an honest appraisal from a working technician and how I would do this. And I don't want to push too hard. I don't know if they're locked. I don't want to break it. Geez, that would be terrible. Let me get my glasses out and see. I don't see any way to lock these. Oh, I see. So even though they have an indent, I wouldn't have designed it that way. I would have put an arrow. You know, instead of a round circle, I would have made a square that sort of goes down like a ramp with an arrow pointing to the edge. That would be more intuitive, but that's just me. Maybe I'm weird that way. But if we take this little button right here and slide it this way, just slide it, then the tray opens up. So it's not a straight push in, it's a sideways pull. There we go. Drive trays, are they toolless? It does not appear to be toolless. It looks like you have to use screws. That is a disappointment. I mean, if this were 2003, okay, but everybody else has toolless drive installs, so that is a minor little nitpick. It's not like you're going to be changing drives off that often, but it is nice to be able to do it without any tools. I slide this over, pull the tray out. Usually you bend these aside, you pop your drive out, pop another one in, no tools needed. With this one, you're going to need tools, which explains why they've included the screwdriver. But yeah, they definitely need to improve this design. This is very unoriginal and very basic. On the other hand, it does have a really good price. I don't know. You decide how big of a deal that is. All right, so there's the inside. And on the front, we've got a power button and then LEDs for the status of all of the drives, each bay, along with network status for probably LAN 1 and LAN 2. No, it doesn't have LAN 1 and LAN 2. It just has, it has each drive, and then it's got a status indicator of the unit overall. I would like to see a LAN 1 and LAN 2 status indicator. So 2 more LEDs down here would be beneficial. So remember, first generation product, it's likely not going to hit a home run first time up at bat. It can be done, but it's pretty unusual in the field, in the sport of baseball. We're going to use their included screwdriver, and I've got to tell you, this is not easy to work with this driver. Those screws are in really tight, and the screwdriver slips really easily, and that's going to lead to camming out those screws. All right, so what we're going to do is use our own screwdriver so we don't damage the screws or damage our fingers with the amount of leverage it's taking to break those free. Any standard number 1 Phillips driver, or even possibly a number 2, should fit in there better, give you a lot more leverage, and we should be able to just much more easily take these screws out. There's one. Get that out of my way. That is the, we call this the better than nothing screwdriver. But the good news is there's nothing unique about these screws, so any screwdriver you have laying around the house, probably a good chance it'll be fine, and better than that. Now, when I set this upside down to work on it, it's rounded, so it's a little difficult to work on, to hold it still and not scratch it up. And that one, I'm even struggling. And again, I don't want to cam out the screws, so let me try a number 2 Phillips and see if that's a better fit. Much better. So a number 2 Phillips is ideal. It fits in the head of the screw so much tighter and gives you a lot more leverage, so you don't have to put as much, exert as much effort to break those guys free. And I don't know why they were in there so tight to begin with. Now under here, this should match the photo we were looking at. Pull that off. We've got dual RAM capability. We've got 1 RAM module in it now, right here. And we have the ability to add a second RAM module above it, just like a laptop, SO-DIMM RAM. And then 2 NVMe slots right across here for adding SSD caching. I don't use SSD caching because I'm primarily working with large video files. SSD caching helps when you deal with, Word documents and PDF files, smaller, littler files. that can improve the performance or the perception of performance when this is on a network and multiple people are accessing it at the same time. Now, this little screwdriver is likely ideal for removing the little screws to secure an NVMe drive. Yeah, even those are really over-tightened from the factory, way over-tightened. So I'm just going to loosen them and then snug them up. That's how they should be. But that little driver is perfect for just this part of the NAS. So since we already have RAM, we have the option of putting NVMe drives, and there's quite a bit of height between the NVMe slot and the lid. And this is important if you want to put a heatsink, and you should, on any NVMe drive that goes into a NAS, unless the NAS includes its own heatsinks, which this one does not. So I would buy, if I were putting NVMe drives in this, I would buy NVMe drives that have factory heatsinks already attached. As long as they're not too tall, you should be able to put this lid right back on. And even the lid is curved upwards. And that gives you a little bit of height so that it doesn't collide with a heatsink on the NVMe. And then put the 4 screws. And you can hear that's metal. That's not plastic. So they really went above and beyond with regards to the build quality on this. This is outstanding. You've got the rubber feet here, so you're not going to scratch up the counter. It doesn't help you much when you've got to turn it around to work on it. Maybe set a towel under it or something so you don't scuff up the metal or the desk that you set it on. So with that, let me just put this back in real quick. We're not going to put anything in there just yet. We can revisit that later. I want to familiarize myself first with just getting the OS installed and getting a RAID configured. So I'm not going to put these in very tight. I just want them, when you put these screws in, by the way, right where the screw stops, you do not need to take it any further than that. These were way over tightened from the factory, in my opinion, but be prepared for that, because that little screwdriver they give you, that's going to make your life much more difficult than it needs to be. All right, so in order for us to use this, we have to put at least 2 drives in it. I'm going to start with 3 drives. So I've removed our Seagate Exos 26 terabyte drives that we used in the previous NAS review from another manufacturer. And we're going to reformat these and reset these back as a RAID 5. And then the power brick, this thing is massive. Look at the size of this thing. And I'll show you the power consumption and everything here. Let me unbury myself from back here. I'm going to find my bones back here in about 20 years. All right, let's go over here. See if we can bring that up to the camera. Now you can see it doesn't say ORICO on it anywhere, because the people who make these adapters is a whole different company. So I would grab a silver Sharpie or a label maker and I would write ORICO on this, or ORICO NAS, because if these ever get separated from each other, well, at least you've got that sort of proprietary connector there, or at least it's uncommon. That's going to avoid you plugging this into the wrong thing or plugging the wrong adapter into the ORICO. But, you know, it would just be peace of mind to know the name of the company that this belongs to, instead of the name of the company that manufactures the brick. That doesn't do me any good. So this appears to be a 12 volt, 10 amp, 120 watt power brick. I don't know why it's so big for only 120 watts. But that's okay. I mean, the bigger it is, in theory, it should dissipate heat better and not get as hot as a smaller unit with similar power output. So if it doesn't get as hot, it should last longer, because heat causes wear, and then the wear causes eventual failure. So cooler is always preferred. Not that hot is bad, too hot is bad. There's also rubber feet I just noticed on the bottom of this, so as I set it down onto the counter here, it grips it instead of sliding across. So I'm going to go ahead and just plug this in. Oh, this is something else I noticed with the Synology 925, but not on the other Synology. And I really like the collar. This collar is genius. Essentially, this piece right here moves up and down. Oh, well, you're going to be able to see that. So when you plug this in, it's going to lock. This prevents this from being yanked out. On the other hand, it also means if you trip on the cord, instead of it yanking out, it's going to pull everything off the desk. But at least that way you get some positive click to know it's in all the way. And in order to release it, when you grab this to pull it, you will naturally pull the collar down, and that will unlock it. That is a brilliant design. They should all come that way from every manufacturer. We talk about innovation. Where's this been my whole life? So I'm going to plug that in. It's going to go with the flat side facing up. Right like so. Just clicked in. You see, I can't pull that out now. I have to grab it here, pull, move that collar back, and then it comes out. Yeah, you can hear a click when it's in all the way, so that I like that. Now, with regards to installing the drives into the trays, can't say I'm a fan of having to put the screws in. This feels like the old Seagate Black Armor days of yore, that there should be a toolless way of installing 3.5-inch drives. The screws should be needed if you want to put a 2.5-inch drive in, because there's really no other way around that other than having dedicated 2.5-inch drive bays, which some NAS manufacturers do as well. So that explains why we have so many screws. We have a coarse thread and a thin threaded screw. The thin threaded screws are finer and they're for smaller drives, 2.5-inch drives. The coarse threaded screws, well, they're coarse. They're for the bigger drives. They're bulkier. Therefore, they are for, not therefore, regular 3.5-inch drives. And usually, most NAS makers include these, but they're overkill since you can just install the drives toollessly. A little disappointed in ORICO in their drive tray design, but it's their first attempt, so you've got to keep that in mind. All right, so we're going to take out, we're going to need 12 of these. I'll tell you what I'm going to do here. I'm not going to put all 12 in because I'm not so certain these drives are going to stay in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put one screw in here. In fact, I don't even want to turn these by hand. Let me get my electric driver out. And I've got my torque setting set really low, so we're not going to over tighten these. And we'll put one towards the front on one side and one screw towards the back on the other. That's really all they need. They're not going anywhere. It's not like you're not going to stabilize it or something from vibrational activity. And so there's one drive installed. Now, they're giving you the option to put 3 screws on each side, which is just ridiculous. 4 is all you need. I don't know. This is like tradition. This middle screw should be ignored. I don't know why. Unless you have over-torqued your screw and broke it off, and now you can't use that hole anymore because the rest of the screw is still in the drive, well, you got a backup hole to use. I laugh because that might have happened a time or two. There's no reason for anybody to be putting 6 screws into a hard drive, or for that matter, even tightening them. Once they're snug, you don't need to go any further than that. Now, it doesn't matter which drive tray goes into which slot. We don't have to use any particular order. My OCD says I want to start from the top down. I could even skip a tray. It doesn't matter. As long as we have 3 drives in there, that's what we need to create a RAID 5 array. The location of the drives is irrelevant. The unit doesn't care. My OCD, it cares, but that's a different issue entirely. It's got nothing to do with ORICO. Now, the drives I bought here, these are 26 terabyte Seagate Exos enterprise drives that are refurbished that Amazon sells right now for $309. So $309 for 26 terabytes. And they should be compatible with NAS use. I typically use Seagate Iron Wolf, but I decided I've heard from other content creators that the Exos drives work fine in NASs, and even on the older Synologies are on the approved drive list. So we'll find out if that's true the hard way, as we have $1,200. No, we have $1,000 after sales tax for 3 of these. I actually have 2 more. So at $309 times 5, because these will hold 5 drives. I just haven't taken them out of the box yet, and I don't want to start something that is going to require a bigger disassembly if I don't like it or there's an issue. So we're going to start with 3, and then we'll see where we go from there. So yeah, 5 26 terabyte recertified drives at $309 plus sales tax is about $1,300 just in the drives. And again, it's with your memberships and your contributions. Seagate does not send us anything. They never have. And, well, we did order an ORICO model from Kickstarter. This one was sent to us for free by ORICO, just for full disclosure, for us to give it an honest review, which is what we're doing today. We want to look for the good, and we want to look for the bad. And if we only see good things and we don't see bad things, I feel like I'm not doing a very good job. If I only see bad things and I don't see any good things, I feel like I'm not doing a very good job. As a reviewer, you should be able to look at it in the most unbiased. Why am I having a difficult time here with this one? This one screw wants to give me a hard time. Hold on, let me pay attention. That helps when you line it up correctly. All right, and then one more over here. So yeah, these factory recertified drives I've been buying, I've never seen one fail, not once. And some of them I've got from 6 years ago. Still no problems using them in a NAS, specifically the refurbished or renewed Iron Wolf drives. Never seen one bad, ever. Now that I've said it, I better knock on wood. All right, let's pop this bad boy in here. That one doesn't look like it's in all the way. I guess, oh yeah, it wasn't in all the way. So you do want to make sure that when you put these in, this little switch that I'm sliding, I don't know how well you can see this. This is sticking out. If you look, if I push this one in, it's really got to go in far. Then you lock it down. So if you look, this one sticks out. It's not all the way in. And because it's not all the way in, the latch also won't open. So that seems like a flaw in the design. And that's typical Carey, that I'm not plugging things all the way in. That's why I like the collar on the power cable. I hear a click. I know I've got it deep enough in there. But with this, now it's stuck because I have nothing to grab it from because I closed the latch like an idiot. And now I'm stuck. So I guess the best way will be take the one out above it. Are you kidding me right now? There we go. Okay, take that out. And now I should be able to grab the top of it. Wow, is that really in there? Just push it all the way in. Okay, so in this case, the answer was push it in. Sort of like when you don't close your car door all the way. Before you try and open it, just close it harder. So yeah, we're gonna push this in as far as it'll go. See how far that's sticking out? Just keep pushing. There, it's in. Wow, they really need to improve that. That should not be that difficult. All right. I'll leave the little cover off. It's just magnetic. That would sit on here. And we're not going to put the NVMe drives in just yet because I want to familiarize myself with the OS. Now, when you hook up a NAS, especially when you're doing one for the very first time, we don't want any USB peripherals. I just want one Ethernet cable and the power, and that's it. Nothing else. Now, once we get things set up and we're ready to start expanding, then if you have options, you want to plug in a second Ethernet cable, build on that foundation, but build the foundation first. Otherwise, things can get really messy and make your life complicated. My life is already complicated enough. All right, let's grab a power cable and an Ethernet cable. Power. Thank you. Ethernet, doesn't matter which one we plug into. And as soon as I plugged it in, it turned on. That's a little scary. I would have preferred to actually turn it on, but strange. I hear the drives are initializing now. And then we have to be able to find this on the network. So this thing's covered in QR codes. They want you to use an app on your phone. I'm old school. I want to access it through the browser, which means there's got to be some kind of a discovery utility to find this on the network, unless we go, you know, fishing through our router to look at what's connected. And while many of you have that skill, most people don't, like most average computer owners. But I do think most average computer owners would love to have one of these, just to have this much storage available to everything connected, including having their own cloud service so they can watch movies and listen to music that they've got on their own with their phone, with their travel around the world. They just have this at home turned on and left on. This does not have to be the realm of the tech-savvy person. They should be available to anybody regardless of experience, and they should be very easy to set up. So what I want to do is go back to ORICO's webpage and look at what their downloads look like, see if they have a desktop assistant. Paul Vircher joining us in the chat room. Alan with a Y says hello here in the chat. And, oh, I heard a beep. Something's going on over there. Steve Dodd renews his membership, now a member for 32 months. He says hello. Thank you, Steve. Thanks for renewing membership. We appreciate it more than you can possibly know. I laugh because if you saw what sponsors want to pay us and what they want us to do for that, it's like a dance monkey. I'll give you a peanut. So you guys keeping us independent by renewing your memberships and also keeping this such an amazing community. Well, it means the world to me, and I can't thank our members enough. All right, so let's go back over to, let's see, ORICO's website, which is where? Bring up window capture. Let's look at this together. So here they want $419.99, $399 at Amazon. And of course, with Amazon, you've got those free 30-day returns. They say they have a 30-day money back. They also say they have free shipping. And they have PayPal as an option to pay. And PayPal even has PayPal credit, which you could even finance it if need be. So what we're looking for is the support area right here, support center. And we want to look for download center. Oh, anybody know a tech? That's not good. That is not good. So the fact that they're already selling these on Amazon, this should be working. If this was still like in prototype stage, then I'd understand. I could say, okay, well, it's prototype, it's not done yet. But if you're already selling to the public, this should be working. So we'll let them know. So they haven't, you know, maybe they don't know. I was taught to give people the benefit of the doubt. So let's just do a Google search for ORICO HS500 discovery tool. That's fine. Now, interestingly, you see where it's taking us? It's the site that it was trying to click on for support that wasn't working. It was taking us, something after this area is incorrect. As the link is something's not working on the link, but the link does in fact exist. So that's a good thing. We want the Windows download, and that's going to download up in the top right here. And I'm going to switch over to my display capture. So everybody sit tight. I'm going to come over here, and you're going to see my OBS screen as it creates video feedback and, you know, puts picture and picture and picture and picture. And I will make some people sick. So bear with me, because there's no other way for me to turn that on without you seeing it, unless I had a second monitor, and I don't have any room in here for second monitor. Anyway, this is the full screen capture or display capture. And so we've downloaded for Windows, that's what I want. You'll see they have a download for Android, iOS, and Mac. We're going to go here to our downloads. We'll click on Cyber Data. That's what I want. Windows protected your PC. Okay, so this is not an authenticated app yet, but I'm sure it's safe. Obviously, if you want to scan it with your antivirus or Malwarebytes or something, no harm, but I'm sure it's going to be fine. I'm going to click Run anyway. It's a trusted manufacturer, so let's see. Install for all users, yes. You want to allow the app to make changes, yes. English, okay. Accept the license agreement. I don't even want to read that. Click Next to begin the installation. This seems like an unnecessary step. There's nothing here. Okay, and then this is the default installation directory. Next, create a desktop shortcut. Yeah, let's do that. Next, click Install. Okay. So far, pretty standard, except for the fact that it's not, what's the word? It's like authenticated. Microsoft doesn't know this is a virus. It looks like, you know, this is how people write viruses. That doesn't mean it is one. So they're defaulting to, like, just in case, we're not going to let you run it. And you have to override that manually. So ORICO needs to fix that because it's going to make people question their integrity if they don't. So we get installation successful. It's weird that they put it in an information box like this. Like, the way they've written the code doesn't quite seem like who's ever done this has done it before. This is not normally, normally this is where you put like your end user license agreement in this big text box. Normally you get a little user interface pop-up information box that you click OK on. That's part of this software. They just haven't configured it properly, but they're just starting out. So look, we all have to start somewhere. With that, we click Finish and let it start this tool, and let's see if it finds the NAS on our network. And so far, I don't see it doing anything, but I'm going to be patient. I see something down here on the system tray. No devices. After connect, oh, I guess it found it. HS500Pro BF06. Connect or don't show. Boy, this looks a lot like Minisforum. I wonder if they're sharing resources or copying one another. Interesting. Because you know who doesn't do this? TerraMasters, Synology, QNAP, ASUSTore. It doesn't look like this at all. I've only seen this once before, and boy, does it look identical to Minisforum. I'm not saying it's good or it's bad. I'm just focalizing my observations. Let's hit connect. Oh, even that wording is all the same. This has to be the same software. Somebody else is writing this, and they're all labeling it. That's what it looks like. So it finds our IP address. It says the LAN is online. It says there's a new version. New version of what? Software for the NAS or software for the app? I'm going to guess it's for the NAS. I don't know. I'm going to click Download Update. Remember, it's a brand new product. I want to see updates, and I want to see them often. This is 200 megs, so it's a pretty big update in the world of NAS. And then we'll hit Install Update. Yeah, that's got to be for the NAS. So it's not going to be rebooting the desktop. It's going to be rebooting the NAS. So again, because the product is brand new, updates are to be expected and preferably frequently. You shouldn't see that as being discouraged. If that discourages you, don't buy a new product. Wait a year for the bulk of the work to be done already. And if you want to be able to have the latest and greatest, then you want to see these updates as frequently as possible. What you don't want to see is that the company's abandoned you or isn't prioritizing getting the updates in place. And that can take, you know, on most new products, about a year before all the updates are necessary to sort of polish, work out all the rough edges. That's normal. Now, the reboot looks like it's going to take about 2 minutes. That's pretty normal for a NAS. They're not the fastest booting things in the world. And the more drives you have, they usually turn one on at a time to avoid a big power spike. So you'll often hear the drives spin up, and then the next one you'll hear spin up, and then the next one. It's kind of neat, actually, but they don't all spin up at the same time. Oh, look, 1 minute required, reconnecting, and the number is going up instead of down. Okay. I thought this initially said 1 minute and 78 seconds. I'm like, isn't that 2 minutes and 18 seconds? What am I missing? Oh, I heard a beep. So it sounds like the beeping is telling you that it's booted, I'm guessing. I hear the drives chattering. I hear the fans running. I don't know why this is counting up. That is so bizarre. That is not useful. Maybe if they rephrased it, like reconnect time so far, like to let us know how much time has expired, but it's referencing how much time is left. Why telling me how much time is left would the numbers be going up? That's weird. Now, I don't know if the beep I heard was the machine doing a full cycle restart or saying it was ready, because I think if it were ready, we'd see an update on the screen by now. So I'm just going to patiently wait. It's pretty common for a NAS to take about 3 minutes or so to restart, regardless of the manufacturer. That's par for the course. I do hear the drives doing something. Oh, there's a short beep. Remember, this is all live, unscripted, and unrehearsed. What I'm demonstrating to you is exactly what you should expect if you go down this path, so that you don't go, hey, let's go to dinner in 10 minutes. Hey, let me set this NAS up real quick. You ain't making it to dinner. So I want you to understand what's involved so you're properly prepared. So now we're just watching the screen as it continues to install this update. I'm not touching it. I'm just watching it like you are at home. And I guess administrator initialization is a button. Yeah, because my mouse was on it. All right, so it's ready for us to set this up. Wow, does this look familiar? Okay, register administrator. So I'll put the name Carey, and this is my password. And we'll confirm this is my password. Okay, secure email. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. We'll just hit register, see if it'll let us skip all that. It wants at least one piece of secure information. Okay, we'll put the Gmail address in here. Now will it let me register? Account must be 6 characters. Seriously? All right. Damn it, mother. Why couldn't you give me a longer name? Please verify your email. No, no, just stop. Can we just take all this out? All right, so even though it said we needed to put a piece of information in there, we didn't. All right, that's fine. Log in. Carey. This is my password. Log in. System pool has not been created. Create now. This is great. This is what I want to see. Remember, our system pool was created on Minisform, and since these are nearly identical operating systems, wouldn't that have freaked me out if it actually worked and booted into our other storage pool? The fact that it's not is interesting because it seems exactly like the same software. Boy, I'm so glad it did not, that did not convey over. All right, simple mode, that's what I want. Next step. It sees all 3 of our hard drives installed, and it even reports their actual size of 26 terabytes. I've never seen a NAS do that before. Normally they would give you sort of the binary number, which is what, 24, 23? So the fact that it's showing the actual decimal, that is good, 26 terabytes. I've never seen a NAS do that before. We can have RAID 0, we can have RAID 5. it's defaulting to RAID 5. You can also do mirroring, RAID Z with at least 4 disks required for that. Storage pool encryption, data compression. Normally, I would not turn on encryption or data compression because this slows the machine down. But with a processor this high end, maybe not so much. I'm going to stick with all the defaults. If this is what they're recommending, I'm going to leave recommended settings, and we're going to just step through this like an ordinary consumer, trusting the walkthrough. You've selected drive 1, drive 2, and drive 3 to build a storage pool in RAID RS31. The equivalent capacity of 1 hard disk will be used for redundant. That's RAID 5. After creating a storage pool, the data click RAID. So this is, wow. I mean, everything we're seeing here, almost word for word, matches the entire process of the Minis Forum NAS. So somebody else is developing this. Somebody is developing the software. Even the Mac-like buttons up here are the same. And I don't believe ORICO or Minis Forum are developing this. I think somebody else is developing it, and they're putting their name on it. Now look, I'm not saying that's good or it's bad. I'm just vocalizing an observation. All right? For better or for worse, they are nearly identical. Now, because we have to erase these drives, it doesn't take this lightly. It's pretty standard practice for NAS software to say, you better put your password in so that we know the person that's responsible for making this decision is the same person responsible for logging into the NAS. Therefore, if you know the password, you're the responsible party, and you are the one that's going to be held accountable. If you erased everything, it's on you. So this is how they verify someone didn't just break in and think it would be funny to erase all your stuff. Because if you don't know this, you ain't doing it. There's nothing on there anyway, so it's just going to reset the array. I am really confused why I didn't see the array. Because the software is so similar, why did it not see the array from the Minis Forum that we just pulled these drives from, given the software appears identical? And I bet you if we pull the code and look at it, it's the same software with branding changes and maybe some, I don't know, modifications, perhaps, from the manufacturers, modifying the main source. I don't know, but it's way too similar for that to be a coincidence. There's something going on there. On the other hand, I did feel like Minis Forum software wasn't quite ready for action yet, such as, you know, the SMB protocol not being fully implemented. So I wonder if this will be the same. System storage pool successful. Start using it now. Wow, that's bossy. Start using it now. Okay, okay. All right. I mean, they could have said click OK to proceed, but, you know. All right. So here's our default desktop. We got a lot of good stuff on here. A little too much. I don't use Docker. Probably could right click and remove it. Okay, good. You got a little start button up here that probably has our main menu. Recycle bin, storage. Okay, storage pool information, hard disk information, external storage information. Mac-like buttons on a Windows computer really gets under my skin. But they make pills for that now. Let's go to settings. Let's take a look at our file share. It wants us to go on this internet address. I don't want this on the internet. I just want it on a local area network. So everything is moving more towards the consumer, you know, point at the picture with your camera and click, like color within the lines, which a professional artist would scoff at. But this isn't necessarily a bad thing, you know, to keep it friendly like that. Let's take a look. Wallpaper, energy saving, count. So share is for sharing this on the internet. What I'm trying to do is create a file share or folder share. So that could be rephrased. I'm a little confused about what they mean by share. And I had the same confusion on the Minis Forum app. So again, we're right back at sort of the same thing. Cache would be if you're using the NVMe drives, you can create a cache here. This is a log cache. I don't know, that seems Seems like I wouldn't call this cache. This looks like just logs that are cached. Maybe call this log cache? I don't know. Feedback. This is important to have the feedback built into the OS so that you don't have to go to a separate website and request support, and you can upload screenshots and attachments of things. This helps them to refine the product sooner with that kind of feedback. So where do I create my share? It's not under share. We have a storage pool. But when in the storage pool, we need to create a share, and I don't see where that is yet. We're losing one drive's worth of storage space for redundancy, so if any of the 3 drives should fail, the other 2 can pick up. And there'd be no, you'd still be able to use the NAS, and you can swap out whichever drive has failed while the machine is turned on and rebuild it, all while using the NAS at the same time. As a result, 20 gigs is sort of being consumed by that redundancy, and there's 47.12 terabytes free, but we have to assign it into a folder or multiple folders. And I'm just trying to figure out where that is. Storage pool, okay, it's usually a part of the storage pool. What we're trying to do is create a volume, or you can create multiple volumes, but I want to keep this simple, a volume within the pool. What's our region? English, operating system, simplified Chinese, no. Oh, it's got a reboot to do that? Really? All right, that's interesting. So while that reboots, let me come back over to camera 1. Hold on, you're going to get that video feedback loop here for a second. Okay, I'm back. That way, I want to go over to the chat room and see what you guys are saying. Dennis says, I wonder if it allows you to turn off the WAN later. I don't know that it's turned on right now. Viper says, pretty easy to set up. Is it the LAN share icon? Did I not see that? That's from Terrell, sorry. That's from It's Your PC. I need to take another look at it. Simplified Chinese. Andy says Chinese doesn't look simple to me. I agree. David Graham said it's not completely intuitive. It's a good first swing at the ball, you know, it's not terrible. Brian says, I don't want my NAS on the cloud. Well, these are, most people do, right? Most consumers that would buy this would do so they have access to their files. You know, our friend Mitch, when he travels, and he travels a lot, he likes to access his movies and his music on his phone as he travels around the world using Plex and his Synology. That's a very common home user scenario. Now, on the businesses that we deploy these in, we never turn WAN access on. And I don't think it's on by default, but there's always a way that you can control that. But when you walk through their wizard, if you will, they don't call it wizards anymore, they're probably going to default to the basic consumer choices. And if you're above that technical level, then obviously you don't need to go through the wizard. You could set all this up yourself, which you would ordinarily do. Just like an artist doesn't need to paint by numbers. If they see a tree, they can paint it. But if you don't know how to paint, then you can do a paint by numbers, and when you're done, it should look exactly like the artist's, or at least pretty damn close. So one way is not better than the other way. And you have to start somewhere. And if you're going to start making it complicated, you're probably going to have people give up and never pursue it. So you've got to have an easy walkthrough wizard, and then people can decide for themselves what they like and don't like, and then look up, okay, how do I make this change? And then over time, they'll become experts. That's how I learned. So this is a good starting point, generally speaking. It's Your PC says the LAN share icon was right on the desktop. Yeah, I'm sure I didn't see it. There's a lot on the desktop. It's crowded. So let me go back and look for that. And I appreciate that because I really haven't looked at all the icons on the desktop. I was a little overwhelmed. I'm used to like 3 or 4 icons on the desktop. To see that many right out of the gate is a little overwhelming. So I didn't take it all in. So I'm waiting for this to reboot. Let's go back over to it and see if it's done yet. I guess, is it rebooted? I can't really tell. It says, here, hold on. We've changed the operating system to language, to English, but now the region still says mainland China. So we're going to click on that. Changing the service zone may affect accessibility of the NAS. That's fine. And we're in the Western, again, this is exactly the same as Miniswarm. And once again, we get into this. It takes about a minute. And then there's a comma, and then it says how much time has elapsed. I don't know why there's a comma. These are two separate statements. It takes about a minute, period, next line. And then it should say time elapsed, colon, 23 seconds, 24 seconds. That's how I would have done it if I was a developer. This is a little weird, but this may be sort of a cultural language barrier, right? Just they might look at things a bit differently. Or I might look at things differently if I was in that area of the country and that's how things were translated or communicated. So that's just a bit foreign to me. So I don't know when this changes. It's kind of brought us back to the desktop here, but what are we under? Settings? Let me close that and go back to settings. Under region. Yeah, and so it did change it. Okay, good. So you said here on the desktop that there's a LAN share, internet share, remote access. Oh, LAN share. There it is. All right, main account disabled. See, I don't think this was enabled by default. So first we'd have to turn the main account on. Configure your SMB account. Username. I'm going to put the same information in. Right? This is my password. I don't know why that's being displayed. Normally, password information is hidden. Create the SMB account. That's weird. I don't know what this means. I thought I changed everything to English. Enabling this will allow the user, will allow this account, this specific account, to access personal space. Give me my personal space. It does support SMB 2 and 3 with multi-channel. That's good to see. Then, of course, we have FTP, NFS, DLNA, WebDev. Okay, all this is, it's all exactly the same as what we've already done. Device monitor, this gives us information regarding the model, device ID, IP address, status of the cores on the CPU, our memory usage. Looks like this came with 8 gigs of RAM total. And after we're running all this, we still have 6.5 gigs available. CPU fan cooling modes on auto, chassis fans on auto for both fans, current temperatures. That's just great. That's great. I'm happy to see this information available. It'd be nice if it ran in a little wizard down here. Maybe it does, and I don't know how to do that yet. Upload and download speeds are displayed here. And I still don't know how to create a LAN share. Allow other smart devices to access your private cloud. See, a lot of this is going to be cloud-based, which we don't necessarily want. Minimum protocol. Let's say SMB3 is the minimum. And what I want to know is, can I see this on my network? So if I go to my computer folder, my Windows Explorer, and go to network, will it appear up here? So there's the ProArt build, there's our Synology NAS, there's my laptop. I don't see this NAS appearing. Not here. But I also didn't knowingly and willfully create any shares. So under File Manager, again, like the Miniswarm, we have all these defaults, which I don't like. I do not like this. There should be no default shares, period. I should create them. But again, they're trying to get this sort of out of the box for the everyday consumer, not necessarily for the everyday business. So you could probably right-click and delete the ones you don't want, but I'd rather it was the other way around, where I created what I wanted. So let's say I want to access, I don't know, the photos. How do we access photos? Over the LAN. Share with a link. Select an expiration date. Wow. 2 hours. What if I want it forever? There's no option forever. That's not good. Let's cancel the share. Right click. Copy the path. Path copied. Go down here and paste that and push enter. Does that open? That's not what I wanted. No. That's a weird path. Huh. What is this thing? Okay, let's try it this way. Let's go back over to settings. Carey's info. Logged in devices. That's the streamer that's logged in. It's online. About the app. Okay, they got some work to do here. What else? So how do I access my share? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, let's say I want to map a network drive to this as a, a Z drive. That'll always be there like a USB drive, but I can do that to every computer in the building and they all have access to access the folder and share the files. That's what I'm trying to do. I don't want to do it over the cloud. I just want to do it on a secured LAN. That's what we have here. Should be one of the easiest things to set up. And it's not clear to me, and this may be my fault, all right, because I don't know, but it could also be a lot more intuitive. It wouldn't be this much work. File manager, maybe? Desktop downloads, images, ebooks. Yeah, this is all just categories, and they'll use AI to like sort your photos. So you could say, show me pictures of trees. It'll look through your photos with trees in them. I mean, I organize my stuff into folders because that's how I was raised. So I don't need that, but it's the new trend everybody's doing now. Okay. What do I want to do? If I look at the system, the host, let's change the host name. Let's just call it HS500. Just keep it easy. I also want to make sure that WS Discovery is turned on. Without that turned on, you're not going to be able to find this browsing the network. That was not yet a feature added to SMB on the minis forum. I'm going to guess it's not added here. And as long as it's not there, then we're not going to find this by browsing the network. We would have to know the actual name of the device, so HS500. So if I come down here and open a command prompt and ping, because usually you have to reboot for that to take effect. Let's see if it's taken effect. Let's see if it finds it on the network just through a ping. It does. It's giving us the IPv6 address. So if I want the IPv4, I'll type in -4 with, still pinging. Now I've got the IP address. Well, duh, I already knew that. Okay, fine. So now the question is, how do I access it? So normally on a computer, you could go / HS500 and just look at it on the network. And it wants me to log in. And I'll click OK. And that's the same login password I created. Public space system pool. And when you open that up, then we have all of our files and folders. That's interesting. So there's no guest account. There's no WS Discovery. Forget what WS stands for. Why is that not working for me? My brain can only hold so much information, and it was overloaded about 27 years ago. I think it was December 7th at 4 p.m. is when I ran out of storage space. So I have to keep deleting things to make room for new information. WS Discovery is Web Services Dynamic Discovery. And so that's what you need turned on a Windows network if you want to hit your browse my network and find it that way. This is an option on Synology and QNAP and others that is not yet implemented, but should be as part of the SMB protocol here. So once they do that, you should be able to locate it that way. In the meantime, we can still map a network drive letter. We should be able to. If I go back to, let's see, is it map network here? No. Let's do, think about this for a minute. How would I do this? Let's go to yellow folder, this PC. So you see I've got my Synology NAS mapped here. So I access it like it's an internal storage device. That's on every computer, and nobody can access this outside of being in this building. Let's go to map a network drive. Now, if we try and browse for it, I'm sure we're not going to see it in the list because without WS Discovery, you're just not going to find it. So what was it? It was / HS500 / something that was really long and complicated. So I'm going to just leave it there. Reconnected sign in, we'll call it drive letter Y. Check the spelling. That's not good. Nope. It no likey. Let me go back to the desktop here. Wait a minute. What if I just type / HS500 enter? Whoops, I just typed it. I see what I did there. Public spaces. Could they make that name any longer? Public space - system pool. And we likely have to, I think, get all the spacing and everything exactly. This should just say public, just public. Why did you have to make it like that? So somewhere in the software I could probably just change that, but I don't know where it is yet. You can't just right click and rename it. That's not going to work. Oh, map network drive. Okay. Cancel that. Let's try that again. Map. Aw, it's not there anymore. Aw. All right, can I just copy that? Control C. Okay, so that's where I want to go. And then this PC. And then map network drive, Control V to paste. Click finish. Hey, there it is. Okay, now when I go to my computer, I have a Y drive. And that brings us to all these folders here that I can write data to. And if we go to our videos folder, this should have our last couple videos that we've made. These are pretty big files, as you can see. I'll right click. Let me try again. Right clicking is too complicated for me. Choose copy. And then we're going to go back here to Y under videos. Oh, I don't have a videos. I have a movies. Paste. Now we're on a 2.5 gig network here, so I'm kind of curious what our speed is. It's 2.5 meg. That's 2.5 gig. Okay, that makes sense. We're right at 250, and upwards anywhere from say 250 to 280 would be expected if you have a good connection and a fast enough processor and fast enough computer and fast enough drives in your NAS. 250 should be pretty easy to saturate. 2.5 gig. So moving whatever that total of data was, nearly 100 gig, I think 80 gig, 90 gig, it's going to take about 4 minutes. That's not terrible. You know, that's pretty much what 2.5 gig does. So performance on this is good. It's where it should be. Now, I don't use Docker, and I won't use any internet sharing, and I'm not going to use any remote access on this. So a lot of these icons, I don't uninstall the apps. I just remove the icons. And then I have access to them if I change my mind by just going up here under all applications. Now we can see they've got some polishing to do, but this seems a bit further along than Minisforum was. But these are the early stages that we'll look back at fondly and say, do you remember when it didn't even browse the network? Or, you know, the good old days when things were a little Wild West. That's where we're at right now, but it's very usable. I see why it's for sale. It's good to go as far as basic use, but if you want full featured, it's going to take some time. The build quality is one of the best build quality of any NAS I've ever seen. I mean, that's really good, where the drive trays really fall short. And again, on the Minis forum, the drive trays fall short. But Minis forum drive trays don't require screws, but they're still wonky to get in and out. They kind of feel like they're going to crack. These feel the same way, and they require screws. So we got pros and cons here. Most of it's very nitpicky. It's not like you're going to be putting drives in that often. It's not that big of a deal. But if I'm deploying this into an office, I need to be able to get in and out quickly. I don't want to have to bring a screwdriver. So they need to improve that, in my opinion. Now, when it comes to adding, in fact, let me go back to camera one. Hold on a second. We're going to bring up OBS. Go back over here to camera one. Okay. For this to be deployed in a business, it's this close, this close. The focus needs to be on that network control. Having SMB3 with multi-channel, what that means is we can plug both 2.5 gig Ethernet ports into one switch. You don't need anything special. You don't need any special software. You don't need any special cables. You don't need a special kind of switch that does port aggregation. None of that. Not today. Today, with SMB3 multi-channel, what that enables you to do is utilize both 2.5 gig networks simultaneously that auto switches, so that when multiple people are accessing the NAS at the same time, they have the ability to each get 2.5 gig on their own. It's really clever. And each 2.5 gig does get its own IP address, which is, it's not like bridging. It's multi-channel. It's really, so you have link aggregation and bridging and all this other complicated crap, which for the average user makes their eyes glaze over and they lose interest. This is simple. You turn on SMB multi-channel, even if you're not using the 2.5 gig, maybe you only have 1 gig switches, it's going to run at 1 gig times 2. That's 2 gig. That doesn't necessarily help one person get to 2 gig. It might. I'd have to test it. But where it really shines is when multiple people are accessing this simultaneously. Think of it like water pressure. If you're in the shower taking a hot shower and then somebody in your house flushes the toilet, does your water pressure go down and does the water get cold? If so, imagine that you had 2 separate lines of water coming into your house. One goes into the shower, one goes into the toilets. Then they're independent of one another. So while you're taking a shower, someone flushes a toilet, it has no impact on you. You don't lose water pressure, your temperature doesn't change. By having 2 separate water input lines doesn't mean the person taking the shower gets twice the water pressure. So in much the same way, electronics and electricity flows very similar to water. You don't want to mix the two, but it'll take the path of least resistance, right? That's how rivers break apart and fork. They're taking the path of least resistance. Electricity takes the path of least resistance. Water will form sort of a circuit, if you will, in most cases. It'll, like a racetrack, they call it a racing circuit. It's a big oval, or it could be any shape, really. But it kind of ends like a circle. It comes and meets the beginning again. A lot of lakes and rivers flow and connect. They don't just dead end, not usually. Or give it a few millennia and it won't be dead-ended there anymore. It keeps moving and eroding the soil and making and pushing its way through whatever the path of least resistance is, until you end up with the Grand Canyon, for example, as an extreme example over millennia. It's a very powerful force. Electricity can also be a powerful force in the same way. We can see water, we can't necessarily see electricity without tools. So that has some people freaked out about electricity. But without getting into an electronics class, just the gist of it is if you understand water flow, then you understand electricity. They're basically the same. And by having the 2 network ports in multi-channel mode, it's like having 2 separate lines of water input coming in. It's not exactly the same, but that's the best way I would explain it, you know, as an introduction to this concept. So that one person may not see a benefit from it, but multiple people aren't affected as much or at all by the activities of somebody else. So somebody is copying a ton of files, like what I'm doing right now, and maybe Mara wants to watch a 4K Netflix movie at the same time. This would have no effect on her movie stuttering or buffering, and her watching the movie wouldn't slow down how long it's taking me to copy the file if I had multi-channel with 2 network cables plugged into my switch. I don't need a special switch. I don't do anything different to the computer's configuration. I don't load any software. It's just automatic and part of SMB3 multi-channel. Isn't life great in 2025? Yes, please. You can turn multi-channel on and not use it. It's smart enough to know when there's a cable plugged in. It'll auto adjust. So I always turn it on. What the hell? Costs nothing. It's built in. But if you're running really old network equipment, like you've got computers that are 10 years old, or you got a Seagate Black Armor from 15 years ago, it may only recognize SMB1, which is a massive, massive security risk, putting that on the internet today. And hackers will love you for it because you've made it so easy to steal everything you own. So if you have something old that requires SMB1, you should not be turning SMB1 on so you can continue to use your thing. You need to replace that thing. But it still works. You know what else still works? A sharp stick. Do you want to enter the battlefield of any ongoing war on the front lines with a sharp stick because it still works? Because your enemies are using laser-guided missiles and drones. Yeah, your sharp stick still works, but you're up against an enemy who's using the latest and greatest technology to attack you. Welcome to the internet. You're not outsmarting anybody by keeping that old tech alive. If you're plugging it into the internet, you're leaving the doors wide open and saying, please rob me. Let me make it as easy for you as possible, bad guys, because the bad guys will be using the latest and greatest and it'll wipe the floor with you. And before you know it, everything's gone. You'll blink your eyes, it's gone. I'm not trying to instill fear here, but I am. If you don't take this seriously, you will. Just a matter of time. Leave the doors open. You may not get robbed right away. Someone's going to see that door open, and they might think about it. Then the more they walk by day after day, they keep seeing that door open. That temptation's just too great. It's too easy. I'm curious. I got to see what's on the other side of that door. You're going to get robbed, and you probably aren't going to be home when it happens. Do not use SMB1 on the internet. I cannot stress that enough. If you have any old hardware that won't see SMB3, time to upgrade or get it off the internet. All right. Can I get off my soapbox? Let me look in the chat room here, and we'll take any final questions. We're just at about 2 hours today. I cannot believe the build quality of this. It's fantastic. I really like it. Software needs a little work, but I am shocked that Benny's-Form and ORICO seem to be using the same software. So I really am curious now, who's actually making the software? Apparently, I could have started my own business creating NAS software and then letting white box labeling, license it out like Bill Gates did with Windows. There's a business opportunity there for somebody. If I had that skill, which I don't. Okay, our file copy finished. Let me go back over to the chat. Al Perez joins us and says hello. Dennis wants to know how much space does Windows see on the NAS? If I go to the shared drive and right-click, go to Properties, Windows, here, let me turn on the screen capture again. Hold on. Where's my screen capture? Display capture. Windows sees 51.7 terabytes as free space. And because I just copied basically 70 gigs of video files, we're using 70 gigs of space. And you'll notice we have bytes here and terabytes over here. This says 51 trillion bytes. This has 47 terabytes. These are the same numbers. One's decimal, one's binary. It's the same number. There's no lost space. We lose basically 26 terabytes in the RAID 5 so that one drive, any single of the three, can become the spare in an instantaneously. So it's not that one drive is a spare. All three drives are being used, each one carrying a third of the other two. And that enables them to completely rebuild any drive that fails. It's a pretty interesting concept involving some really clever math. And I'm very admirable, very much admiring whoever created and did the math to make that work, because it's freaking genius. We could do this up to, well, quite a number of drives, but I think 8 drives would be reasonably the maximum to have one spare. Once you go beyond 8 drives, you probably want a second spare in case, well, you're rebuilding. That could take days on a NAS that big, or storage capacity of that large. Should another drive fail and you only have the one spare, you lose everything, and that's a lot to lose. So in that case, I would go RAID 6 and have 2 drive space being lost. So if we had 8 drives that are, let's say, 20 terabytes each, that'd be what, 160 terabytes minus one drive's worth of redundancy across the other, well, across all 8 drives. You lose one drive, so it'd be 140 terabytes. If I had a 10 drive or anything more than 8, I would go to RAID 6 and I would lose 2 drive capacities worth of data redundancy. So that if in the days or weeks it takes to rebuild an array of that size because of a drive failure, should another drive fail, I'm still okay, the NAS still works, and we can hot swap. We don't have to turn the NAS off. And the likelihood of a third drive dying is significantly much lower. And of course, you should always have backups. And how are you going to back up a capacity like that other than to another NAS of a similar capacity? So at least that way you have something to fall back on. George Carlin used to do a great routine called A Place for My Stuff. And what it's about is, it's not so much about what you can own, it's where you're going to put it. Sometimes, and I'm in that situation, my studio is just chock full of computers and computer parts. It looks like a Fry's Electronics threw up in here. Eventually, you have to stop buying stuff if you have nowhere to put it. You might have the money to buy more stuff, but you better have the money to have the space to put the stuff. That's why storage units charge monthly and make a lot of money from people that put stuff in storage. My personal feeling is, if it's going to go in storage, I might as well sell it, because I must not need it. If I'm using it so infrequently that I need a storage utility, I better have a plan for getting it out of there. Like, I need it in here for 3 months. I've seen people put $3,000 worth of stuff on a storage locker and leave it in there for years that cost them $6,000 in storage fees. And then when they finally empty it, it's all rotted out, or insects have gotten to it, or the sun and the heat and the summers of these, you know, if it's not an air-conditioned storage unit, which you can get for more money, has ruined what you've put in there. So it's better off you just get rid of it, sell it, throw it away, give it away, whatever you're going to do. And when the time comes that you want it again, just go buy it new. It will save you money. That's the way I see it. So right now, one of the reasons we're not building any more machines is I have nowhere to put them. There's nowhere for them to go. So I need to focus on getting some machines out of here that will also generate more money for the channel that I can reinvest. And it'll clear some space in the studio. So right now, I've kind of painted myself into a corner. It's the same with data. When you have so much data, you better have enough money to buy the drives to store it. I see people that won't use Netflix. They won't use Paramount Plus. They want to own their movies, so they buy them on DVDs or Blu-rays. They rip them and save them onto a NAS. This is a very common end-user thing. I won't get into the legalities of it. You still don't own it, by the way, but you think you do. But whatever. So instead of paying $10 a month to Netflix or whatever, they just download and hoard everything and create their own Netflix on their NAS, and they quickly run out of space. So it's not that they're being cheap. They'll drop $1,500 on drives rather than give Netflix $12 a month. People do this with music, you know. They would, when the iPod was famous, when everybody was buying them, people would spend thousands for their iPod and extended storage space to store all their music. It's not that they were being cheap. They wanted control of it. Now, I understand not everything's on Netflix. I get it. You know, there's a few things that maybe the only way you can get it is through a DVD or something. And there's no other way you can get it today. And you want it when you want it because we're an intolerant and demanding society that all acts like we're rich people with our personal assistants like Alexa and Echo and all this other nonsense, that we all behave, I'm going to have food delivered and I'm going to have all these services done for me like I'm a rich person. And we all love rich people, don't we? I mean, just generally speaking, we all just admire how rich people behave, where they're intolerant and demanding, and if you don't do what I tell you to do, I'm going to fire you and get somebody else to do it because I'm wealthy and I don't have to put up with you. And that's what we're all becoming in society, as all the services that were once available only to the wealthy, from cellular phones. Man, you had to be wealthy to own a cellular phone. To personal assistance and food delivery. I still don't. To this day, I refuse to order food delivery. Are you kidding me? How hard is it to get in my car and go pick up the food? I'm a different generation. If I was physically disabled, that'd be a different story. If I was like, I want to be served. I want a digital assistant. I want people to do things as though I'm the boss. That's the last thing. The way I was raised, I like to keep it like street worthy. I don't care about the corporation, C-suite. I'm not interested. I don't want to be a part of that. Let's all go golfing. If it's miniature golf and you got to hit it through the windmill, count me in. But regular golf, that's torture. Who would voluntarily do that? Well, that's how you hobnob and socialize with the people in power. If you want to make them your friends and become, have opportunities, you better learn to play golf. Man, I ain't playing that game. I will earn through my merits my successes. I'm not going to be, who you know. And that's why I will always remain nobody. I'm not saying it works. One of the band members of the Go-Go's did not want to sell out and make pop music. Do you know her name? Because the other members said, we're making the money and so we're going to make pop music. So they all went on to become famous, and the one with the integrity who said, there's no way I'm doing that. It's a violation of my integrity. She's not rich and she's not famous, and I couldn't tell you what her name is. I'm sure you can Google it. But, what's your integrity worth? Some people have a lower price than others, but I guess at the end of the day, we're all prostitutes. It's just negotiating the price. That being said, that's my vision on life anyway. Having every movie and TV show at my disposal because I'm intolerant and demanding and I'm going to spend $2,000 on storage. I honestly, look, I pull up Amazon Prime. I'm looking at what movies are available. I'm mostly interested in the new releases, like the new Jurassic World Rebirth just came out. You can also watch How to Train Your Dragon live action and Megan 2.0 that are still in theaters right through Amazon Prime. You don't have to pirate it. You don't have to deal with, poor quality in pirated movies or the risk of virus or the risk of being busted, quite frankly. I just click my Fire Stick TV remote. It plays on my television. I'm already paying for it with Amazon Prime in most cases. Sometimes there's an added fee. If there's a movie I'm going to watch over and over, which is pretty rare, yeah, I could see downloading that and putting it on an NAS. I could see having a couple of dozen movies that are your favorites, but not every movie. It's ridiculous. And then nobody ever deletes the old movies they watch. I've never met a person who ever deletes their collection. And I don't get it, because it's just costing them more and more and more money. And they think, oh, look at how smart I am. I've got my own stuff. You couldn't watch all that stuff in a lifetime. If you just sat down watching end to end to end every movie in some of these collections I've seen, they would die of old age before they get through it. So it's some psychological thing. Likely, what I suspect is growing up without it makes you want to hold on to it so you're never in that position again. And so the younger people that can have whatever they want at the push of a button, they don't have to worry about storing it, they look at that and they're like, ooh, you're old. I get it, because I know there was a customer of mine, his father had passed. And when they had to go to the father's home and clear it out, what he told me is he had more toilet paper in storage than he'd ever seen in his life. And what he said was his father lived through the Depression, and it was impossible to get toilet paper. And apparently his father decided, I'm never going to live without toilet paper ever again. And it hoarded so much toilet paper, the only way they could reasonably get rid of it was to set it into a bonfire and burn it away. It was, the way he described it, mountains of toilet paper. So this PTSD that sticks with us. I don't want to ever go without, you know, when I was growing up, TV was scheduled. The show started at 8. If you weren't there at 8, you were never going to see it again. Eventually it might rerun, but maybe it won't. When the show, the miniseries Roots aired and everybody was talking about it. Or V. I loved V, the miniseries. There was no replay. There was no rewind. And if you're rich enough to have a VCR, and not many people did back then, you could set it up and record it if you had the technical know-how to make the 12 stop blinking. Let alone set the scheduler up. And the scheduler, you know, you'd learn, don't start it too late. The show's, you know, sometimes the clock between you and the station is different. So you want to start it a little early, but then the end of the show gets cut off. So now you got to extend it, and you would never get to see the end of the show. That was it. It aired once. There were no reruns. So I guess if you grew up like that and you think, I want this on my time and I want to control it, so I'm going to download it, watch it whenever I want. But most of the time they never want it. They want to know it's there if they want it, but then they never, ever watch it. And they say, well, I will. And they never do. It's like when you watch these car shows where there's some, you know, guy in poor health and old age comes out and he's all hunched over. And he goes to the back of the barn or the garage and he says, well, I bought this car 40 years ago to restore it. And that's about how far I got. And I finally come to the conclusion I am no longer physically capable of restoring this car. And my wife has been nagging me to get rid of it. So I want to sell it, and hopefully to somebody that's going to restore it to the way that, you know, that was my intention, that I can pass that on. So like the show Fast and Loud, this is what oftentimes who they were buying from. And I mean, this person hadn't worked on the car in decades. And it took them that long to look in a mirror and come to the realization that it's not even an option anymore for them. They have physically degraded to the point where it's not possible. And they could have sold this car 2 decades ago. And I think that's what I see with a lot of movie collections. They want to complete the collection. It's like Pokemon cards. But what do you do with them? Got the collection. It's a collector's mentality, which, you know, the internet now is your library. Everything you should want is available for music and movies. It should be a click away. This old school mentality of having to own it yourself is not something young people understand. And I'm explaining it to you. I'm not telling you it's right or it's wrong, but the younger people tend to be on the right side of history when you look back at things. And so rather than trying to convince young people that they should hoard movies, I think it should be the other way around. We should be watching what the young people are doing and seeing how much more stress-free their life is and how much easier they have it than we ever had it. And we can have it as easy as they do if we would just adopt these ways. But some of us, our pride and our ego say, no, I'm going to keep doing it this way. Like me, I'm not going to have food delivered. I could afford it, but I could also use that money for something else. I'm not swimming in cash, so I'd rather just get in the car and go get it. I'm physically able. Why wouldn't I? Why would I have food delivered? It's another thing to cook in the kitchen when it's 118 degrees out and have all the cleanup and garbage and everything to take out. So I'm a little lazy, but I'm not that lazy. Okay. That's the way I see the world, for whatever that's worth to you, which is probably nothing. And again, if that's how people want to use their NASs, have at it. I'm not telling you not to. I just find the whole thing bizarre, that it's so much cheaper and easier and faster. If you had Netflix, you wouldn't have to worry about having Plex. You wouldn't have to worry about having access to your Netflix account as you travel. It's there with you when you go. There's no software to install. There's no licenses to buy like for Plex. There's no constant configuration and adding to your storage. It just feels like, why are consumers doing this? It's just something to do. Have at it. I'm not interested. I'm happy to set it up and configure it for you. Then you're on your own. Have fun. Where my primary concern is in business case, where we've got customer data, we've got to secure it, we've got to lock it down. We need to be able to have everybody in the office utilize the same files and share and work together. At the same time, it's got to be secured from the internet. We need updates. You know, Windows Server requires a lot of maintenance. It never ends. These NASs are smaller, they use less power, they're much easier to maintain. They are turnkey solutions, or they will be in this case, it's close. And you set it and walk away from it, you're good to go. Keep it super simple, keeps it cheap, and it keeps maintenance and ongoing monitoring so much easier and less expensive, because this is all built into the software to have it email us when there's a problem. Set that up. Drive failed, it tells me. I don't have to find out when things stop working, because then it's too late. That means the second drive failed, the NAS doesn't work, and now we've lost any ability to recover because we only had one drive of a rebuild process. So then you better hope you had backups. So that's why I say this keeps everything cheaper overall, cheaper to buy, easier and less complicated to deploy in business, more secure than Windows, less maintenance than Windows. Electricity usage is less cost. There's no keyboard, mouse, monitor required. And that's a business case scenario. On the other hand, ORICO is really promoting this to consumers. So on the consumer side, you probably do want the cloud access, and you want media, you want photos, and you want music, and you want movies, and how you got it is none of my business, and I don't want you to tell me. I don't care. That's not where I make my money. Nobody's paying me to set up their NAS in their home so that they can rip all their movies. Like, that's something people at home do. Businesses don't do this. And I don't earn my living by businesses asking me to do these things. These are home user activities that I can't wrap my mind around, and I don't care. Doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. I don't understand the mindset of it, but I don't have to. It's not a prerequisite. But at the same time, don't expect me to get behind you and cheer you on and want to share your enthusiasm in that, because I could care less. I want to stay in business, and none of that keeps me in business, all right? And the legality of it's very questionable, and I'm not telling you what to do. I just don't want to be involved. That's all. But I will tell you, you can do that with any NAS device. That's what Plex is all about. The legality of it depends and varies depending on where you live. So there's all different kinds of little details. And unless you're a lawyer, I'm not really interested in what you have to say about it, because a lawyer probably doesn't watch these videos. It wouldn't waste their time explaining it, because that would eat into their profit. You pay them for that information. They don't give that out for free usually. So whether you're right or wrong isn't my problem either way. I just don't want to be involved in it. But knock yourselves out. All right. I'm just looking through the chat to see if do you guys have any other questions about this? I mean, I don't know a lot about it, but I can dig around for an answer. I hear the fans running in it. They're a little bit loud, but not terrible. Mark Baggett said, streaming has become the modern day cable. Yeah, both figuratively and literally, for sure. Peter says, hoarding. It is hoarding. It's digital hoarding, and it's expensive. So if you got the money, knock yourselves out. Richard said, Happy Gilmore 2 is a great movie. Think you're easy to please. You know, the Adam Sandler movies are so silly. I've got to be in the right mood to watch it. And it looks like there's a lot of guest cameo appearances that look more interesting than the movie. So I will probably watch it when I'm ready for silly. But to have somebody say it's a great movie, I don't think it's Citizen Kane, but you know, hey, you like what you like. It's cool. Andy says, I usually have at least one book I'm reading. My mother, this is a great example. My mother was moving and she asked me to pack her stuff for her, moving from Arizona to California. And I said, you know, you have all these books and books and books. She used to be a stay-at-home mother. She had nothing to do all day. She would crochet, play classical guitar, cook meals. Good old-fashioned stay-at-home mom. And she read a lot of books. And over the years, she collected all of them and never threw any away. And she felt very strongly that books should never be thrown away. And as I'm blowing inches of dust off of these books, I said, these are heavy. This is going to affect the gas mileage. This is going to affect how much space we have in the moving truck. But those are my books. I said, I understand. And I understand if you have a few books that are special to you that you'll read again, but you haven't touched these books in decades. That day ain't coming. When are you going to realize you haven't even given a second thought to these books? It makes me feel good to see them. Okay. The place you just moved to is smaller. You don't have room for them. The amount of work to move these books into boxes and lift those boxes and put them in a truck, and the amount of space we have in the truck, and the amount it's going to affect the gas mileage and the weight of the truck. Do you really need all these books? Because I don't want to load 2 tons of books. Just tell me the ones that are your favorites. So she had, like, you know, the classics, the Iliad, and what's the partner to that book? The Odyssey. These were hardbound books. She had some J.R.R. Tolkien, and she liked Kurt Vonnegut. Okay, well, let's take those books. That's fine. Now, what about all these other books? She goes, well, I don't want you to throw them away. I said, I'll take them to the local library. How's that? And she said, fine. So I loaded up my car, and I had to do this in like 3 trips, and the whole back of the car was sitting like this from the weight of these books. And I took them to the local library, and they had a donation center. And I said, you know, I was just curious, what do you guys do with these? For all I know, they put them in an incinerator. She goes, well, we don't have enough room in the library for all these books, so we'll probably sell them off. And then we use the money to fund the library. Oh, yeah, I'm sure my mother will be happy with that. And then because of this being a large donation, she ended up getting a tax deduction substantially for that year's taxes. And she was very happy with the end result, and I was happy. So the more stuff you have, the more it costs you to keep it. And it doesn't matter if it's movies or music, physical books or stamps or record albums, or, you know, my grandmother used to collect whiskey bottles, and she used to have them all over the house. Really unique glass whiskey bottles that were limited run editions from the 50s. They collected everything. Coins that had no value at all. I mean, they were worth spot price. She had everything was this get rich quick, right? This one of these days, one of these stamps is going to strike it rich. One of these coins, one of these whiskey bottles, one of these days, one of these dolls. She had porcelain dolls. She collected everything, everything. She also lived like she had a place in the middle of nowhere with junkyard, 7 or 8 old 50s and 60s cars and non-working, just sitting in the yard. You know, scorpions and rattlesnakes and cactuses and a dog that never comes inside, kind of a thing. Very much kind of hillbilly, but in the desert. And that's fine. That's how she lived. You know, who am I? She went through tough times. And then, you know, they hoard everything. But when she passed, oh my Lord, to go through all of that stuff and all the kids that she had thinking all this is worth a lot of money, we're going to be rich. Not a single coin, not a single stamp, and not a single whiskey bottle was worth maybe more than twice what she paid for it 40 years ago. That was it. So it was all for nothing. It was a lot of labor to get through all that stuff, and somebody else had to clean up her mess. But apparently that's what she enjoyed. Nobody was going to stop her. And I'm not stopping you. I'm just telling you, you do you. Don't expect me to say it's okay and to encourage it. And I don't expect you to say it's okay and encourage my attitude either. So we'll agree to disagree and respect each other in that way. I've had so many people try and pull me into their world. I'm like, I'm not going. But look, I'm not interested. But I want you to look. I don't care. I'm not telling you not to do it. You'll do it without me. That's all. Common courtesy. It's happened so much as of late. I've gotten so tired of it. It's like, you know, when you have an actual computer problem you need help with, I'm happy to help you. When you want me to engage in your hobbies, I'm not interested in your hobbies. You go and enjoy those. That's all I'm trying to say. Do you think by me vocalizing it, it's going to reduce the number of people doing that to me? Probably not. But I do say it in the hopes that somebody won't even start. I'm probably naive. David Graham said, my brother had a huge Beanie Baby collection and lost it because he couldn't pay the storage fee. And Beanie Babies lost all their value. For the most part, there's not really many that have any value, like maybe the Princess Diana one, and then like Star Wars figures. There's a couple of Star Wars figures that I had that are probably worth a few $100, but the cost of storing them for 40 years and as they age and yellow in time reduces the overall value. That $600 is pristine condition if it was kept in a way that it would not yellow the plastic and deteriorate and fade. And at the same time, you know, is it mint in box? No, I took these out and I played with them as a kid. They're pretty well worn in. And yes, it would still have some value, but out of the 100 or so Star Wars figures I had, there may be 2 that had any value that wouldn't even cover the cost of the entire collection that I paid in the 1970s, figure by figure, for $1 a piece or whatever it was. So, you know, I guess if you have the space and you want to store stuff and you need the $100, I guess. But it's not like I'll never have to work again after I sell the Star Wars figure. I'm set for life. That's my retirement fund. No, I don't think Warren Buffett invests in stamps. I think, or Star Wars figures. You probably want to invest your money in the stock market, savings account, S&P 500. So you have sort of a guaranteed return instead of wondering one day, maybe someday my ship will come in. You can have your ship come in if you plan ahead for it in a much more certain way. And I'd rather, I'm not a gambler. I'd rather have the certainty saying, the earlier I start, the more compounded interest builds. And, should have done that. It should have been taught to me in my 20s. And I could have $1 million in an S&P 500, starting with, $100 a month, something like that. Even $20 a month. Something I could have started with in the 80s and they didn't have much. Whatever I could have lived without, $20 would still be something worth something today, not costing me money. Instead of me working for my money would be working for me. No one ever taught that to me. So there you go. I assume everybody already knows this and I'm the last one to figure it out. But just in case you don't, learning how to make your money work for you is a lot smarter. Patrick says I probably should have kept all my Matchbox cards. They're not worth a lot. They do have vintage collectible toy expos around the country. And if you have a rare, you just happen to have picked up a rare one, which you wouldn't know at the time, that other people highly desire, you might have one car in your collection. The rest, they're not worth saving them. For the cost of what they're taking up in space and how much your house payment or rent is per square foot, you divide that out month after month, year after year, you're losing money by utilizing that space for something that's not returning an investment, when you could be using that space for something you actually use rather than just hoard away somewhere and cover it up and don't look at it for decades, unless you just have a lot of space. But if you have that much space, what do you care about a few $100? You see what I'm saying? Like, if you're in that position to begin with, who cares what it's worth? You don't need the money. And if you do need the money, you're sort of spiraling down into an abyss of spending more and spending more and spending more by hoarding and not letting anything go, when the vast majority of it, if you have anything worth any value, it won't be enough to make it all worthwhile, unless you just happen to be very, very lucky and you have that one rare thing. What are the odds of that? So again, I'm not a good gambler. So just bear in mind, that's where my perspective comes from. Alpha Video and Computer Services just became a supporter. Right on. Thank you, Alpha Video and Computer Services. Mark Gaines says, Carey, you have mail. Thank you, Mark. Let me check my email. And then we're going to get out of here. So last questions regarding the NAS or network storage, or why you would use it, how it's being used by businesses and consumers. If you have any of those questions, I'm happy to address them now. Anything specific about this that I can tell you about, I'm also happy to address. I want to thank our friends at ORICO for sharing it with us so that we can share it with you. I'm really excited about this. Not yet. It's not ready yet. It's really, really close. And as the software continues to evolve, they have the potential to not only match, but to leapfrog over Synology and other flagship NAS manufacturers. So right now we're playing a game of catch up, but then I think it's going to accelerate very quickly, because the level of hardware in here is far better than what you get in Synology. So then what happens is, after they start to catch up, they'll probably not match it. They'll probably leapfrog way over it. And then the gap is going to be reversed of what it is today. Mark my words. They're hungry, and they are working towards that goal every day. So let me pull out the phone. Let's check email. Where's my email? Oh, Mark Gaines sent $38.40 via PayPal. He said, here's a few dollars for the channel. Right on. Thank you. Cheers, Mark. I think that's a couple text messages from one of my customers. I'll deal with that later. And let's just look here in the chat. CoreyMan0 said he's just tuning in from Ottawa, Canada. All right, well, we're just wrapping it up, Corey, but you can rewind the video to see what you've missed. John Paul Bacon said what Carey was talking about with videos, he can apply, or can apply to music and other types of content. Yeah, I used to rip all my music CDs, and initially it was all like 128 megabit per second rips, and then I thought, I want to go to a variable bit rate for better quality, so I re-ripped them all again, and then I would copy them to a flash drive, and I would put the flash drive into the car radio, so I'd have my tunes with me while I drove. I could just put it on randomize, and every song that was on there, it was about 1,000 songs, was good quality. I ripped it myself, and I didn't have to listen to the radio. I didn't have to listen to the commercials and skip stations constantly where it's just commercial after commercial or songs I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear Rick Astley Never Wants to Give Me Up. Had enough. If I hear Hotel California one more time, I'm going to lose my mind. Not that it's a bad song, just too much. So prior to that, I used to make CDs, and I'd have the little CD holder visor, you know, over the visor, take the CD out,
And that was initially music CDs. They hold about 17 songs, WMA format. Then I figured I can start burning the MP3s. Once I got a third-party stereo that I put into my car, I could then play MP3 CDs. So then I was burning somewhere around 150 MP3s onto a standard 600 meg CD in good quality. And then flash drives, and the flash drives held way more than a CD. They never could be scratched. I didn't have to worry about the visor and organizing, you know, some label on the front of the CD. This is jazz, or this is new age, this is rock. Instead, I just put everything I owned onto the flash drive. Got a car stereo that takes the flash drive, reads the MP3s, it randomized, and I was happy. Today, I don't do any of that nonsense. It's all a complete waste of time. Everything's on Spotify for me. I hear a song on the radio, I like it, I hit Shazam, it tells me the name and the artist of the song, and I say add it to my Spotify. So yeah, I'm paying monthly for Spotify, so what? All the work is being done for me. All of the quality is fantastic. I don't have to re-rip anything. I don't have to spend all the hours going through a system of which CDs did I do, which ones are remaining, and then work through it, and then copy the files over, worry about the ID3 tags. What a pain in the ass. The album art? No. No, God, no. For 10 bucks a month, or whatever it is, 12 bucks a month, hit the button, any song I can think of. There's a few exceptions. There's a couple songs I want, they're not on Spotify, but I can add them into my Spotify playlist manually. So now I've got like 3 songs I ripped. 3! Just so I can have them on my Spotify. Then I Bluetooth it to any car I'm in. Could be my car, could be Mitch's car. Hey Mitch, I want you to hear the song. Connect the phone, hit play. Instantly, it's on. Why would you not want that? I haven't bought an album in years. I probably paid about the same buying the albums as I'm paying in subscriptions. So it's not like it's costing me more or less, but I'm getting way more music. Way more. If it's something you don't use very often, it's probably costing you more. If I go on a road trip without Spotify, it ain't. No, I gotta have Spotify now. I'm also not using fold-out maps. I'm using GPS. And it all is on my phone, and I'm taking my phone in case I have a breakdown or an emergency or a customer needs to call me. It's all right here. And I pay a monthly service fee for this too. Worth it. In fact, if you take the monthly subscription fee of Spotify and the monthly subscription fee of the phone, that allows me to make long-distance phone calls in the United States, Canada, and Mexico for free, compared to what I paid in the 80s, all of this added up together cost less than a landline did in 1984. Way more for your money. Hell, we used to pay for on-peak minutes and off-peak minutes. Every text message was 10 cents. You had to have friends and family that you could call for free in other states, or you had to pick which side of the states, were you in the western side or the eastern side, for who you wanted to call for free. Remember those days? Way cheaper. Everything's converged into this one thing. Why not use it? If I'm watching a YouTube video on this, and I want to put it on the TV, I just hit the share button right there on the phone. And my smart TV, which is connected to the network, is seen, and it says, oh, you want to share this on your Fire Stick? I go, yes, I do. And my YouTube video is now on the television. And if I want to fast forward it, I can still fast forward it and such through the phone if I want to. And if I go over to a friend's house and if I'm on their network and their TV's on their network, which most smart TVs are, even they don't know they can do this. And it's just push one button. It's on the TV. You don't need to use the YouTube app on the TV. You don't need to use the remote to sign in. Control it right here from your phone for free. Or I could download the content, put it on a flash drive, take it to my friend's house, say, do you have a computer we can plug this into, or a projector, then hope it plays back correctly. And then that way, I mean, why? Sorry. Get a little emotional about that. I'm done with it. So much better now. Please join us. That's all I'm saying. Well, you're welcome to if you decide. There's no going backwards, man. Once you've had bacon, you never want to go without bacon ever again. But if you've never had it, you have no idea what you're missing. John Paul Bacon says maybe Amazon Music for those pesky harder to get songs. I don't want to go to multiple services. I just want one. Pick one. I do have, you know, I thought Amazon Music was included in Prime, but I guess it isn't. So, because I thought maybe I'll switch over to Prime Music, but not for an added fee. I'll just stick with my, I don't want to recreate my playlists and everything. So I'll just stick with Spotify. I'm happy with it. John Paul Bacon said, old habits die hard. Yeah. Quarryman says, did you say bacon? Dennis mentions the first question that their discovery tool should be asking is, do you intend to use this for home or business? I agree with you. That would be a nice, a good suggestion for them to consider. Let me go over to my activity tab and see what I've been missing. Thank you to Steve Dodd, who renewed his membership today, now a member for 32 months. Says hello earlier. Ron Barnish renewed his membership, now in month 36. He says, I can't believe it's been 3 years already. Isn't that great? Crazy how fast time flies. Peter VZ with a €2 super chat. I missed that earlier. My apologies, Peter. Thank you for supporting us. And again, a welcome into our new supporter, Alpha Video and Computer Services. Thank you for supporting us here so we can maintain our independence as unbiased reviewers without worrying about companies trying to punish us, right? As long as we're able to buy the products we want to review, or the companies want to send us their product under the condition that we're not giving them any opportunity to approve it before we show it to you. If they truly believe in their product, like ORICO does here, they should have no problem with us doing it live. If they require us to submit a video to them before we're allowed to show it to you, we don't do that here. We can go and buy the product on Amazon. If ORICO was gonna, let's just say they said you have to show us this video, I'd say never mind, we'll just go buy one on Amazon. If we don't like it, we'll return it back to Amazon. It won't cost us anything. Or if you want, you can send us one and we'll review it live and we'll be honest, for better or for worse. I do want to find good things, and I do also want to find bad things, or I feel like I'm not being a very good reviewer. So hopefully the good outweighs the bad, and you know, how it comes out of the box, if it's damaged, it's all real and authentic. You don't find this from most YouTube channels because it doesn't make any money. Most people, they're like, Carey, you're nuts. Yeah, probably. My integrity is more important. I feel like sooner or later, someone's going to figure out this is worth way more than the commercials you've been watching from other channels, from most other channels. Speaking of which, I reached out to Robbie over at NAS Compares, and I really think they're the GOAT of NAS review channels. Like, if you're wondering, who do I watch, for example? I am subscribed to and watch NAS Compares, and he puts a lot of work in his videos. And I reached out to him thinking, yeah, he's probably not going to reply, you know, who am I? And he did reply, and we've engaged in a little discussion back and forth. And we're very similar birds of a feather. It was a very nice conversation, and I'm very appreciative that he took the time. And hopefully we can get him on a live show and share our different perspectives about the state of NAS devices, what's good, what's bad, what's coming, where they're falling short, or what they're missing in our opinions. And we mostly have the same values, but we kind of branch off at a certain point. He goes one way and I go another way. And he's not wrong and I'm not wrong. We just have a different perspective. I love that, by the way. I love to hear other people's perspectives where they don't take it personally. Like, how dare you? The idea isn't to convince somebody to change their mind or their ways, but rather to hear what their ways are and why, and then for me to explain what my ways are and why. And I do believe the audience picks from that which is more relatable to them. And it's sort of like Siskel and Ebert of the movie reviews back in the day. You generally like Siskel or you generally liked Ebert, but neither one of these guys was wrong. One was more relatable to you than others. For me, I found Roger Ebert far more relatable than Gene Siskel, who I thought was way more technical and analytical to things. He wouldn't just enjoy it, sit back and enjoy the movie, you know. And with some exceptions, it was generally Roger Ebert, the one that I personally related to. So we could have our own NAS compares. I think it'd be great for the audience, and I think it'd be fun for Robbie and I to engage. So hopefully we'll make that happen. There's a big time difference, you know, an 8-hour time difference between us. So it probably wouldn't be a standard 1 o'clock show for me. We could go on, you know, 10 or 11 o'clock at night here. You'd be in the morning there, perhaps. So just so you know, got that going on in the background, and is a super nice guy. Highly recommended. If you're interested and you want to learn more about NAS devices, be sure and check out and subscribe to NAS Compares. He's very thorough. He knows a lot more about it than I do, and super good guy. That's gonna wrap it up for me for right now. Quarryman says you can only skip 6 times per hour. Yeah, if you're using Spotify for free, who's paying for it? You think they're just gonna let you use it for free and the artists that make the music don't get paid? No. There's gotta be an incentive for you to support the artist and support the platform, and it's not much money. And when you pay that, you can skip as much as you want, and you also get rid of the commercials. So you're paying one way or the other. You pay with your time, or you're going to hear the ads and you can only skip so much per hour, or you pay the fee and you do whatever you want. But to take somebody else's work and just take it and not give anything back, it's one thing if you do it once or twice, but if you're just constantly doing that, yeah, there's got to be some form of limitation to how much they're going to let you take before their financial losses are too great, and then they end up going out of business. So you've got to consider, what if you're taking something, it has value to you, or you wouldn't take it, and you're going to pay for that with commercials and limitations, or you're going to actually pay for it with and not have the commercials and limitations. It's fair. That's fair. All right. And that's Spotify. I don't know about Amazon. Quarryman saying Amazon Music was replying to Mark. Yeah, I know you guys reply to each other, but I see it and I don't know if you're talking to me or not. So I jump in there and again, I thought Amazon Music came with Prime. It sort of does, but you really need a separate subscription to that. And if I've already got a separate subscription that I've already established with Spotify, all I was saying was, for me, I'd rather just stay where I'm at. It's not worth the hassle, to move it over. But anyway, I thought you were maybe talking about Spotify. So with that, I think that'll wrap it up. And thank you all for being members, for hanging out with me today. And thank you to ORICO for sending us the NAS. And without the memberships, we wouldn't have been able to buy the drives, which are required to do this review. Tomorrow, we have another NAS. The Synology 1825 Plus is an 8-bay NAS. I've never used a NAS of that size before. And what we're going to do is we're going to use, Synology sent us their branded drives and NVMe drives and a 10 gig upgrade card, which is different. It works differently than the previous 10 gig upgrade cards. 1825 is a different beast. So this is new territory for us. And we're going to go through the unboxing and overview using everything they sent. Following that, the next video that we'll make with the Synology, where we're going to take the 1525 we're using now, we're going to take the drives out of it, put them in the 1825, and we'll do it live and show you how the migration works. We'll show you how you just copy and paste the script in the task manager and the drive restrictions are removed. And that'll be 5 drives. We'll add a 6th 20 terabyte drive to it. It'll take about 3 or 4 days to rebuild. We'll add a seventh 20 terabyte drive to it. That'll take 3 or 4 days to rebuild. And every time we add another 20 terabyte drive, we add 20 more terabytes of storage capacity, and we're going to fill it. So we'll have 8 drives in total, and we'll just add one at a time and let it rebuild and expand the array. And because of the size of this, it's going to take a few days for each drive, but we can still use the NAS the same as we always use it. It has no impact. We won't even realize it's doing it. And when it's done, we'll add drive 7 and drive 8. So we'll fully populate it with 8 20 terabyte drives without losing any data, without having to reconfigure anything. And with the 10 gig upgrade card that we'll be putting in, we'll probably leave the NVMe drives in it, even though, again, it doesn't really benefit the way we use it. It might actually. And we've got them, we'll just leave them in there. And then we're going to live with it. Every single day, we're going to live with it. And once these reach a level of maturity, then we're going to deploy these in real world usage too. We're just not quite there yet. But I love the sneak peek. I love to be able to look at it early, see where we're at, and they're very close, and they're making progress rapidly. So I'm excited to see where this goes. And I just noticed when I put this on, this just quieted down. The noise level just went down. So FYI, I just realized that. Thank you to Mara for all the work she does in the background as our channel administrator, doing the thumbnails and video descriptions and links. You can always reach out to us at our email address, which I will put here on the screen. And if you want to reach out anytime, we're always happy to hear from you. Be sure to write or type slowly and proofread what you've written, because if it doesn't go to exactly this email address, we never know you sent it. So take a moment, proofread, and we always reply to everybody within 24 hours. If you don't get a response within 24 hours, you likely sent your email somewhere else unwittingly. But we do enjoy hearing from you, so don't hesitate to reach out. Also, our friends over at SCD Keys, you know, this is where I get my Windows licenses for Office, for Windows 10, Windows 11. This is where I buy them. I use my own coupon code. That's right there on the screen, the same one you guys use. I pay the same price. I do it the same way. And we thank SCD Keys for allowing us to share that discount with you. Most places that run a computer business will not tell you who their distributors are. And even if they did, you often cannot buy from those distributors because you're not buying in big enough quantities. So this is one of those circumstances where, you know, I'm not Dell or HP. I'm not a systems integrator of that size. I can't buy 10,000 or 100,000 Windows licenses at a time to get a bulk discount. I also am not going to go buy a 5-gallon jar of mayonnaise at Costco because it costs less, as I won't eat it. So when you're at a certain size, your distributors become even more precious. And most small businesses, I'll be damned if they tell you who their distributors are, because they're basically telling you how to bypass them, which is in effect putting themselves out of business. So it's a very unusual thing for somebody to expose this kind of information. Who is the trusted resource that I can use in a professional business that's legal, that has support, and it's also price aggressive, but isn't cutting any corners that could jeopardize the integrity of my business? That's who. When it comes to Windows and Office license keys, that's where I get them. Do with it what you want. We don't make a commission if you buy or you don't. So, you know, you want to save some money and have peace of mind that you're getting a real product with support, it's right there. And all the links for the Office and Windows products are in the video notes below the video. And be sure to use the coupon code to save 30%. I don't get paid if you use it or you don't, so it's up to you. I want to be clear on what my motivations are. Again, our friends at ORICO, thank you for sending this, and we can't wait to get our hands on the Kickstarter project that just ended. Hopefully we'll have that next month. And our friends at Synology did send us everything for tomorrow's video, so a thanks out to them ahead of time for making these videos possible, along with our members, so we can buy the 8 drives at $310 a piece that go into it. Yes, the 20 terabyte Seagate Iron Wolf renewed drives are $309.99, and the renewed Seagate Exos 26 terabyte drives are $309.99. Anyway, that'll wrap it up for me today. We will see you all again tomorrow, 1 o'clock as always. I hope you'll join me then. Until then, bye for now.